Shalom family, it's your man Elijah. Thank you for joining me at Unsectarian Wisdom, and as usual, I'm a wise, wealthy, rich, celestial being that is loved by the Most High Creator. Let's go ahead and jump in, family. Today I got a teaching for you. We're going to talk a little bit about relationships today, but I want to go ahead and jump into this video clip before we jump in. But we're going to talk about more than relationships. We're going to try to dive a little deep today, but let's go ahead and jump in this real quick.
That I think should have been taught a long time ago in sex education, in Sunday school, in like all over the place for young girls. Why don't you introduce it?
Well, it would have changed your whole life.
Absolutely. Would have changed many girls' lives, yes.
So, a friend of mine sent me a link to an article that's titled "Women Absorb and Retain DNA from Every Man They Have Sex With."
Scary, right? So you're convinced.
Uh-oh.
Right, you're convinced. Well, you're not a woman, but I think most of us are going, uh-oh, right? Because you're convinced it's why I keep tearing up the house, right? Now I'm pretty sure that I have never dated a Navy SEAL. I certainly haven't been married to one, so it doesn't explain like why I love fighting and all this stuff. Well, at least I don't think so. But yeah. It's really an interesting concept. My ex-husband was a contractor, so he's convinced this is why I keep tearing up our house, right? But explain what this article shows.
Well, this is actually a replication of another study, which is why it really blows my mind. I mean, the first time I read this, that whoever you have sex with, for women, you actually begin to incorporate the DNA of the man into your body. So it's very important to be thoughtful. I mean, you should be anyways, of who you have sex with. You should be thoughtful.
For many reasons.
Now this is saying, wow, if I have sex with someone who's abusive, with someone who's erratic, with that it may actually have an impact on the females, and it's different than males because females get a guy's sperm, and where women retain their own eggs.
Right.
So women are not giving their DNA, if you will, to men, but men are giving their genetic material to women.
So it's really interesting when you think of this idea, the two shall become one, or the five shall become one, right? So it's really kind of a scary concept, right? In Mamma Mia, the movie, right?
The movie, Mamma Mia, she said, no, I don't think it was 100.
Right, so let's hope it's not 100. But in sex education, when they teach this idea that you're sleeping, when you sleep with someone, you're sleeping with everyone they've slept with, what they're referring to is STDs, right? But it really has a far more reaching impact than that.
Alright family, give me a second. I'm trying to set something up because while I'm talking, I don't want the screen to go off, so give me a second. Okay family, so before I jump in, I want a disclaimer, and I've said this in earlier videos. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to try my best to speak slow today and be as clear as possible, because I know your man be wilding sometimes and I just be running off at the mouth, but it's because I just got so much wisdom that's been given to me and I don't know where to put it, and it's like overload, sometimes, like I've said it before, it's so much wisdom I feel like I'm crazy, because it causes, it's almost like a split between my realities before my eyes. But what I want to say is, no matter what I say, don't believe anything I say, but research yourself. Search, find, line upon line. Precept upon precept, here a little, there a little. And that doesn't just go for the Bible, although that is a passage from the Bible. But that goes for all things that you do in life. As people say, with all things you do, add God to it. Do it as if God is doing, or do it in a way that God would be appreciative of it, or the Creator, how I prefer to say. But that also goes with everything I say, or anyone in your life in general. As they say, chew up the meat, spit out the bone. Don't just follow anyone blindly. You can lead yourself to hell. Don't follow me, because I could be going to hell and lead you to hell, if hell is a thing. So please don't believe anything I say, but research, study, go behind me. I'll try my best to give it as many references as possible, because when I study, when I research, family, when I'm trying to verify things, a lot of times, when I said I'm really bad at it, I forget to save a lot of sources, because I'm always jumping here and there, and I'm really still working on my as far as making videos and doing this type of thing. I'm really working on my organizational skills, so please bear with me. But anyway, so without further ado, I want to jump in real quick. I showed the first video. I'm gonna get more into that as we go, but I wanted to start off with that. But I also want to start off with something else. I want to read. I'm going to the Bible, and remember, and once again, although I go to the Bible, family, for my viewers who aren't Christian, once again, I am not a Christian, nor am I against Christian, because I grew up Christian. I have family members who are Christian. My grandfather was a pastor. My biological mother and father are, well, my biological father is very much still a Christian. So there is no hate for Christianity. My grandmother, like I said, my family in general. So I have a Christian background. So that is my foundation. But I wouldn't consider myself a Christian. I don't call myself a Christian, because I've studied so much and seen so many things that Christianity doesn't make sense to me anymore. And I've been this way for years. I've been on this path of studying. I've actually read the Bible, so I'm just not someone who's read a passage here and there and jumps around like your average so-called Christian. So I just want to keep that in mind. And once again, I'm not reading this from a Christian point of view. I'm reading this from a me point of view, from a Elijah point of view, from a point of view of trying to look from the outside in. So, and also I'd like to say that this is a video more so about, well, how do I word this? There's going to be a lot of, I guess some people would know, people will say subjective truth. In other words, truth, this is truth based on my feelings, based on he said, she said, and my own, my own personal experience of life, which is true, but there's also facts in what I'm saying too. All of them, I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to be able to back up, but this is why I say research. But I'm not going to go ahead and go through a whole research thing right now on every single subject. Right now, it's just kind of putting the information out, because sometimes there's just some things. Remember, learning comes from hearing. And there's some things that you might assume is common knowledge. Maybe someone hasn't heard it. Or maybe I put something in a way that you have never heard. Maybe you've heard it talked about before, but you've never heard it put in a way that I've put it. And it might make more sense. So anyway, let's keep going. So we're going to Genesis chapter 24, right? And I'm going to read verse 6 through 67. I don't really need all of it, but just for the sake of learning, I'm gonna start at 61. So once again, this is chapter 24, reading verses 61 through 67 out of the Bible. Then Rebekah and her servant mounted the camels and left with Abraham's servant. Meanwhile, Isaac, whose home was in the Negev, had returned from Beer Lahore. One evening, as he was taking a walk out in the fields, meditating, he looked up and saw the camels coming. Hold on, let me read this again, family. Then Rebekah and her servants mounted the camels and left with Abraham's servant. Meanwhile, Isaac, whose home was in the Negev, had returned from Bir Lahore. One evening, as he was taking a walk out in the fields, meditating, he looked up and saw the camels coming. When Rebekah looked up and saw Isaac, she quickly dismounted. "Who is that man walking through the fields to meet us?" she asked the servant. And he replied, "It is my master." So Rebekah covered her face with her veil. Then the servant told Isaac the whole story. And Isaac brought Rebekah into his mother's tent, and she became his wife. He loved her very much, and she was a special comfort to him after the death of his mother. So the reason why I just read this passage, family, is I wanted to show you an actual marriage, the beginning of a marriage or a marriage ceremony in the Bible. Like people would say, how do you know you are married? I just showed you. And it's not what we've been taught growing up. It's not when you, as we've been growing up, you know, going to, at least in the West, going to like places like America, England, Canada, South America. When people get married, what do? They go to a wedding. There's people there. There's a priest. The priest has a whole spiel, which I remember when I was younger, I was surprised to find out that, you know, the whole spiel that the priest or the pastor reads at the wedding, you know, "till death do you part" and all these things. You know, technically that's not actually in the Bible. Not, well, actually that is technically, but yes, it's actually not in the Bible. So when you sit here saying getting married before God and doing it in God's way, especially if you say you're a Christian who follows the Bible, that specific ceremony is not in the Bible. So that technically has nothing to do with God. Yes, I can see aspects of Christianity in the way it's worded, but I think that that is a point of deception in growing up as far as your mentality and how you look at life, because I believe a lot of us assume that that is actually biblical or must be somewhere in the Bible. Like growing up, when you, maybe some of us heard that prayer, before I lay myself to sleep, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. Maybe being younger, you say it all the time. You might assume this has something to do with church or Christianity when it doesn't. You know, it's like a nursery. It's not a nursery rhyme, but it's like something that you teach your kids. It's a simple prayer. So once again, like I said, I want to start off to give you guys an example, and then some people might say, well, your example comes from the Bible, so that's religion, and I'm not in a religion. You say you're not. Look, first off, the Bible is not a Christian book. Once again, if you go into the Bible and do your research, if you actually read it line upon line, precept upon precept, and study, there's actually literally no Christians in the Bible. Literally, if you're looking at a modern day Christian, what a Christian is today, even by the name itself, Christian, there was no such thing. Matter of fact, there's no such thing as the word Jesus back then, let alone the word Christian. There was no Christian churches. They were different tribes. People went by different names. It's not just as cut and dry. It's saying it's Christianity. Christianity came way after these writings. These writings were not done by so-called Christian people. So you got to get this out of your mind. Christianity is just the corporation that has used, Christianity is just the corporation that uses ancient writings to control the minds of the masses. Because these writings have truth to them. These writings have nothing to do with, I'm going to say, modern day religion. Because religion has, from my point of view, from my subjective opinion, it's like two different definitions. You know, you have religion, which is specifically pertaining to a group of people who have a belief, and they come together, they assemble in that belief, worship, carry that belief out, and then there's people doing things religiously. Like every day, someone might wake up and religiously go to the gym every day, and they're doing it religiously. It's like an example, I guess, to say religion. Someone who goes to church every Sunday. But still, to me, that notates two separate definitions. And I guess I said two separate words too, because there's religious and religiously. Semantics, anyway. Let's not get into the semantics. So, I wanted to bring that up because the Bible, and I'm saying this and I've said before, the Bible, if you can read the Bible without the bias of a Christian, of being a Christian without the bias of a Christian person, or the bias of an atheist, or a bias of someone who just looks at atheists or Christian in general just as heathens and horrible people, because once again, none of these people have anything truly to do with this Bible. You know, other than these new modern printed versions where they keep changing stuff, that's different. That's all them. What I'm talking about, when you get into older Bibles and you get into the more, let's say it this way, the more pure text that hasn't been messed with as much or tampered with as much. Although, yes, it's all been messed with. But as we've been getting on in years, I've noticed, especially through all the different Bibles, the newer the Bible, the more it has been altered. The older, the more it's closer to its original form. So, so let's go ahead. Okay, so the Bible is, and also when you look in the Bible and study it, you start to see the our government in it. You start to see the amendments in it, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, all the rights that we have in law and the government. If you go in the Old Testament and go through like Numbers and Deuteronomy, I promise you, you will see, you'll start to wonder, and you'll read it and you'll be like, I think, did the Bible influence the founding fathers? Because it's very much so evident if you actually sit there and read it. So what I'm trying to say with this is the Bible is more so, it's really actually, if you pay attention, it has nothing to, once again, it's nothing to do with religion. It's really honestly like a nation building book. Like a Bible's like, if you decided I want to go out and I want to build a country, like for instance, you might have books like well, Art of War is good for defense, but you got like Machiavelli, and I forget what it's called, Machiavelli in the he wrote the it's a very common book, but I forgot the name. Everyone knows it if you know who Machiavelli is. Matter of fact, hold on, let me not do that. Let me Machiavelli. Okay, The Prince. Okay, yeah, that's the book I'm thinking of. So, if you think of like Machiavelli, the Prince, right? Teaching you how to be a ruler, teaching you how to be a prince, or a leader. I mean, it can apply to many different leadership positions. Same as the Bible. The Bible is actually very applicable to life if you use common sense with it, you know, and don't become a religious zealot or become someone who's so opposed to religion that you're just blinded that you can't even see wisdom and knowledge in front of your eyes. So I'm just saying it's a good foundation. I'm just trying to break down this religious hold that people have in their mind. So anyway, I know I'm 18 minutes in. So let's go ahead and okay. So let's start from the beginning, right? Let's think about Adam and Eve. And when you think about Adam and Eve, you have to think about it. I tell people, when you read the Bible, another good way to understand it is to actually, when you're reading it, use your imagination and put yourselves in the shoes of those people. So like if you're studying Adam and Eve, right, as you read it, imagine yourself as if you were in a garden. Imagine, like, you know, imagine a rainforest that you've seen on TV and the internet as you've grown up, right? Now imagine yourself naked, standing in that rainforest. And then whether you're a man or a woman, now imagine a man or woman next to you. And then imagine you were the only people around at all, or for hundreds or thousands, possibly even hundreds of thousands of miles, square miles, whatever you want to say, right? So put yourself in these people's, in these individuals' shoes, right? And think about it. Or like, and then also we get into this, so like I said, semantics, and I'm just going to mention it for a second because some people are like, well, how do you know Adam and Eve? That's religion again. look, if we get too deep in it, I'm gonna have to go even further. But just to touch on it real quick, I'm just starting for here because this is a place where I think people can understand it more for this situation. Because as I've researched religion in these specific topics, actually the Adam and Eve story starts to get a lot more, how do I say, spiritual, esoteric. It goes down different directions, especially when you look at the origins and you just, you know, so honestly, I'll put it like this. If I'm honestly being really honest with you, at the end of the day, when it comes down to who was the first, and was it man or woman, if I'm being honest with myself and I'm applying not only common sense but science, physical science from today, actual science, but then spiritual science and alchemy and spiritual common sense and all these things, if you really think about it and take the time, technically the creator, not God, because God is a lower form than the creator. The creator is, I'll put it like this, the God that we refer to growing up in the Bible or in Islam, you know, when you go to the mosque or any other religion referring to God, God is actually the creator. You are more so a God, but the creator is not God, because the God who you call God in the Bible, who you assume God is actually the creator, who is higher than a God. And actually a God, calling the creator a God, the God of the Bible, who is actually the creator, calling the God of the Bible a God, is actually disrespectful if you actually understand, because you're diminishing the power of the creator. So anyway, the point is, let me go back before I lose my point, before I get off track. If you really break it down, technically the creator or God is a woman, because essentially, but there is this, the creator is neither man nor woman, because in the beginning there was neither man nor woman, so there was no distinction between man or woman. There was just essence. There's your feminine essence and your male essence. And the first essence, well, actually, the first essence would have been more so on the feminine side. So you can more so say that the creator was actually a woman, because you're thinking of, if you're thinking from a spiritual point of view, they're the Alpha, the Omega. The creator, there is no beginning, no end. The creator just is, right? So the creator just is. The first thing the creator would have done is self-realization of itself, like consciousness. So, or another easy way of putting out would be thought. So that thought itself is a creation. You have to create thought. So in a way, the creator is, I guess you could say, hermaphrodite to start off with. But once again, female is more so the first example of creation, because that first word or thought was born from what? The womb of the infinite, the womb of the ether. So essentially the female aspect would come before the male. And if I'm thinking of it, trying to think of it from, let's say, a Darwinistic point of view, you know, as far as evolution, even coming from that point of view, the spirit, technically the Bible doesn't make any sense as far as Eve coming from a rib. It would make more sense if it actually came from a woman. But let's say the first creation was a woman, then that means that woman will be able to self-impregnate herself, and a man would actually be more so of a, I don't want to say a defect or deformity, but is let's say a evolution, but definitely not. Actually, no, I take that back. I apologize, because I ain't no feminist. I'm not, especially these. Look, I believe in equality, but I don't believe in today's BS. What they be talking about. I believe that the creator created men for a reason. It all has to do with life and the purpose of life and experience. So everything is done for a reason. It's calculated. But if I'm being honest with my research and studies and just life in general and thinking on things and meditating and just listening to different lectures, I feel like personally, my subjective truth is that if the Creator had a sex, it would most likely be a woman. First, yeah, because the male aspect would be more so the destruction part. Not to say that men are destructive, but like for instance, to cut down like a big old oak tree, you gonna really honestly at the end of the day, like, you really need strength to do it. Hacking at that tree all day. So if you're creating, you need the expression, that more masculine expression of destruction, because in creation you have to destroy to create, because you're taking something that's already there and you're essentially rearranging it, right, to create something new. So you're going to need that brute strength to essentially move the earth, right? So now getting back into Adam and Eve. Oh, but then also, like I said, look at Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve is not only a story of just, because also when you read the Bible and look at the Bible and you look at the term like line upon line, precept upon precept, right? There's a story, like there's the black and white, right? Like when you read it and it says thou shalt not kill, right? Which is just perfect, right? That's just, like I said, black and white. That's what it means. Don't kill, just period. But there's also a meaning under that, and there's a meaning under the ink. There's a meaning in between the lines, a spiritual meaning. It goes even deeper, and it changes over time. Now I'm not saying, this is not PSA. This is not me telling nobody to go out here, hurt nobody, do nothing. I'm trying to explain something. Like for instance, if I go deeper, okay, put it like this. Let's say, like in the Ten Commandments, it says thou shalt not lie. And let's say it says thou shalt not steal, right? And let's say, you go out there and you steal from people. And people get mad, and for the longest time you're like, why are people tripping? It's just something little, it's not a big deal. And then one day you have something you really like, something you worked hard for, right? And you didn't steal it, but you worked for it. And then someone comes and steals it and takes it. How's that going to make you feel, right? You're going to be angry, you're going to be mad, you're going to want to hurt somebody probably. But that's the lesson in it. So now you have a deeper understanding. Before you didn't understand necessarily the deeper effects of stealing because it hadn't been done to you. And it's not necessarily that you didn't know it was wrong. You knew it's wrong because it wasn't yours, but you just didn't really understand on a deeper level because you had not experienced it. But once you experienced it, it had a whole nother meaning to you. See, feelings, emotion, that's why I tell people, what makes us gods on this earth, what makes us different from, what makes, how I say it, higher AI different from NPCs is emotions. What makes a human being or a man turn into a god, or the difference I should say, is emotions. Like true in-depth emotional emotions, because that's a part of being a god. And part of being a god is mastering those emotions and not letting these emotions master you, because emotions is another way to experience life. It's another way to explain things. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's, even if you go, like for instance, take it back to this, it's, without emotions, there's just something missing to life. There's scientific breakthroughs that I'm pretty sure that we could not have had if it were not for people's emotions being involved. I can't necessarily give one off the top of my head right now, but if you've seen, there's a show called on Showtime called The Man Who Fell to Earth. If you watch that show, if you've seen it, that gives a lot of meaning to what I said, because in show there's a premise to where there was, the man was trying to create how to make, one of the main character was trying to figure out how to make a particular piece of alien technology work. But one of the missing keys to him figuring out how to make it work was understanding human emotion. Understanding, because on his planet they didn't have, not say they didn't have emotion, but it was almost like you say Vulcans, but they acted more off instinct. They didn't do anything with feeling, right? So anyway, and going to that, once again, back to Adam and Eve. So Adam and Eve, does not only mean just two people. It also, Adam and Eve can be representation of society, right? Adam and Eve could be representation of males in society and females in society as a whole, you know, or Adam and Eve could just be just society, or Adam can be representation of society in whole, in just a whole, covering male and female. Like, for instance, if you go to, hold on one second. Like, for instance, let me look this up real quick. Because what is a atom? That's why I'm trying to show you guys something. If you look up the definition of, hold on, I had it up here. I apologize. Okay. Hold on. Here we go. All right, so let me switch over real quick. If you look at the definition of an atom, right? What is it? It says, can I zoom in? Okay, you guys see it. So it says the basic unit of a chemical element, right? And if you go to the right here, you see my mouse. It says an atom is the smallest unit of ordinary matter that forms a chemical element. Every solid, liquid, gas, and plasma is composed of neutral or ionized atoms. Atoms are extremely small, typically around 100 picometers across. So anyway, everything is made of atoms, right? So once again, going back to this basically as biblical perspective. When you look at Adam, that's why I tell people all the time, when you read the Bible, you start to look at life and everything that we do, and start to realize that a lot of things in our life actually revolve around the Bible, religion, the knowledge that is in it, TV shows, movies, school, and you'll understand more so this matrix that we live in and the psychology behind everything. This why it's not about religion. It's like to be honest with you, the higher ups or the so-called people behind, you know, the curtains, they really don't want you to read the Bible. They really want TV to be against it. This is why sometimes if you do the research, you can go on YouTube and they can show you TV programs where people start to talk about Jesus and they cut it off real quick. And this isn't even to get into a talk about Jesus and all that necessarily. This is just, I'm trying to show you guys the power that is actually in the words in this book. Not the religion, but the words. The power in the words and the wisdom and knowledge that are in these books. And specifically the Bible at this time. So once again, let's go back to Adam and Eve, right? So like I said, I just wanted to let everybody know there are different perspectives, because I don't want anybody to think I'm dishonest or lying to them. But I just want to set a foundation of where I'm starting at to give everybody understanding. So let's just say in this form, let's just say, and I've actually read this. You know what? Okay, because there's people talk, well, how do you know there weren't other people when Adam and Eve were here? Personally, I believe there were, from what I've read and studied. But today we're going to come from the perspective of, let's just say, use the common sense of, let's pretend like if evolution from a Darwin perspective, I think evolution is real, but I see it more from a spiritual perspective than I do from modern day Darwinism type of perspective of evolution. But but for the sake of mainstream, let's just let's pretend like the dinosaurs came and all that happened, evolution, the monkeys, and one day those monkeys evolved to two species that just happen to look like Adam and Eve. You know, let's just say one day by freak accident, there just happened to be a tribe of monkey-looking people, and two babies came out that happen to have less hair on them, and you know, be hairless, and those two people were Adam and Eve, and those two people left their village in a land far, far away a long time ago, and they found, let's say, as they're walking, they ended up crossing a desert, and one day out of their, you know, as far as they could see, they saw something in the distance, and they saw a jungle, an oasis, you know, say a paradise in the middle of nowhere that no one finds. This is back in the day, right? So now let's go to the story of Adam and Eve. This is where we pick up. So let's pretend like all that stuff happened already, and now Adam and Eve have traveled. They're not talking about family no more. Everybody is dead to them. It's just us. As far as they're concerned, their children, their future children concerned, there's nobody around for hundreds. As a matter of fact, they made a boat. They made the first boat because they're the first people to have some common sense. And they crossed. They were like, we got to get as far away from these crazy monkey people as we can, right? So they traveled. They found an island, and there's a desert. Cross the desert and the island. Like I said, they're going to the center. And then there was a beautiful forest. Bam, this is where they start their life, right? There's a river and everything they need. So, here we go. So let's say when Adam and Eve first got to this forest. So let me make a note to where I started, just so people want to skip, because I know it's 35 minutes for me to even get to this point, okay? So I'm going to just say 35 minutes. Okay. So, Adam and Eve in the garden. Okay, here we go. So you got Adam and you got Eve, right? And let's just say, like I said, once again, you're both standing there. Oh, let's say, yeah, they're naked. They lost their clothes somehow, right? So Adam and Eve in the garden. So you want to think logically. Matter of fact, let's do it like this. Let's say that one day, let's say when they first got to the paradise, right? There were fruit trees everywhere. So they were allotted the luxury because remember, they made it to a tropical paradise, right? So if Adam and Eve made it to a tropical paradise, let's just say there are mango trees everywhere, every type of fruit tree you can think of. And these fruit trees have been unmolested for the most part, other than the animals around. There's no other people, so they're allowed to grow wild wherever they want, right? So, and there's only 2 of them, so there's an abundant supply of fruit. So at first, Adam and Eve, they don't have to hunt, they don't have to do anything. They just eat off the fruit all the time. That's enough. They don't have to do anything but that because it's the climate, is good. They have a cave, you know what I'm saying? So they have shelter. So they don't really have to do anything. So they just living it up. They want food, they go outside, take a banana off the tree, they want to sleep, go in the cave at night. It's not a cold climate, so they don't have to worry about being cold. It's a warm climate. So once again, they got roof. They have the basics, right? So, and let's say that the wildlife there is not carnivorous in nature. It's herbivores, right? So at the end of the day, let's not say there aren't any other animals, but let's just say on this particular place where they live, the carnivores aren't there. Let's say they're in another part, they just don't come to that area because just migratory, there's usually less predators than there are herbivores, right? So let's try to, like I said, I'm trying to keep it real. So at this point, like I said, they don't have too much to worry about. Adam and Eve chilling, not much going on. So as they go through life, they start, learning more about each other until one day, maybe Adam might touch Eve, it might feel a certain way. Eve might touch Adam, I'll show you mine, you show me, although they've been seeing each other thing all their life. So, you know what I'm saying? So one day they figured out, aka one thing leads to another. They copulate and then, or make love, have sex, knock loose, whatever you want to call it, and they have a baby. So now, here's the thing with people and how life works. So now when you have a baby, before Adam and Eve were more, you could say, let's say they were more or less independent, because although they had each other, somebody to talk to, nobody, like I said at first, they had every fruit tree. It's, it is the forest, it's a rainforest, so the fruit's growing year round because it's the right temperature, right? So they don't have to worry about anything. It's like the perfect climate, right? So they're living like a king and a queen, but it's just the 2 of them. They live in a cave, no issues. But now here's the thing. Now they have a baby. So now with this new experience comes, different situations, I say different tests, different trials to overcome, things to learn, learning wisdom, and the application of wisdom is knowledge, right? So as they have a baby, right, here's 2 things that develop. A baby might need a little more shelter for its health and for in better living situation than just a cave, right? So now Adam might need to learn how to make a house. Yes, Eve probably, most likely, not probably, will help because he's going to need help doing certain things. But for the most part, he's more helpful in that situation of building because he's stronger. I don't care what nobody says. That's just what it is. physically, men are naturally more stronger than women. It is what it is. So the man would be out building the house. The wife would be out helping. But also, too, Adam now would have to provide as far as nourishment, right? Because let's say, because over time, maybe at first for the baby and the two, yes, there's enough food for the trees they have. But now you're thinking long. We're trying to think long term as they start to multiply. So eventually, there's going to have to be another form of cultivating food, right? So at that point, that's where the farming comes in. So let's just fast forward and let's say now Adam and Eve have built a house made out of wood and they have a baby. Matter of fact, let's say they have 2 children now. Let's say they got one that's 2 years old and they got another one that's a few months, right? Let's say about 6 months old or something, right? So at this point, you know what? No. Let's say they got a child that's 3 and they got another child that is like 2. No, one, they got a child that's 4 and let's say they have another child that's 2 years old, right? So, let's say fast forward, they got 2 kids. So at this point, it's only Adam and Eve. So we're going to be logical about this situation. Remember, there's no clubs, there's no college, no auto insurance, there's no cars, there's no malls, there's no factories. There's not even really the thought of husband or wife. You know, and I would even, honestly, in a way, suspect there's not even necessarily so much this word man or woman. It's just a knowing. It's just by looking at each other, look, I know you're a man and I know you're a woman. Even without the word, this is nothing that people, you got to think about. Common sense. If I didn't have the word man, or if a woman didn't have the word woman, would you still not know who you were? Like if I was standing in front of a woman naked and she was in front of me naked, could we literally sit there and, like, matter of fact, for comparison, let's say you had 100 men standing in front of 100 women naked. Without the word man and woman, can we really, those with common sense, can you sit here and honestly say that you cannot differentiate the difference between a male body and a female body? So, anyway, so before I digress, so now we got Adam and Eve in the house, right? So once again, you got kids. So once again, they need nourishment. So what is Adam doing? Adam is going out and he is, let's say at this point, he's cultivating crops. He's, as the Bible would say, he's tilling the land, right? So he's tilling the land because he's got a wife and he got 2 kids. They have to eat. So he's become a farmer. You know, I guess you could say the second, if not first, you know, job of man. But I would say that there's another job. But anyway, so at this point, and if anyone's ever talked to a farmer, like a real life farmer, like got all the land, when you talk to a farmer should, I'm not saying should, but the farmer I knew, as we spoke, and it makes sense. He was saying farming is not a job where you get the weekend off. Farming is a 7 days a week job during harvest seasons or planting seasons, right? Because when you're farming, you have to check on it constantly. You have to make sure, you know, animals aren't eating it. You have to pay attention to the weather. You know, especially if you're growing something in an atmosphere that isn't native, you know, to that area. So the atmosphere there might not be very conducive to the growth of that specific plant. Or you might be trying to grow something out of season. And so you might, like, for instance, I know in certain places when they grow certain wines because of the cold weather, they might light, during certain times of growing the wine, they might light torches around the plants to keep them warm, to keep them from freezing over. And they might cover it also with plastic to keep the frost from, like, sticking. You know, to keep condensation from the flames and everything to help with the growing process. So like I said, sometimes you got to think about the manipulation. So anyway, so Adam is working and tilling the field, is taking more, you know, think about working with oxes and stuff, taking more strength, right? So while he's doing that, what can he not do? He cannot watch the children, especially if they're young. Like I said, one is 4, one is 2, and their kids are probably getting into things. They might get hurt. You can't watch them. So this is where the teamwork between the male and the female comes in. This is where Eve comes in. So while Adam is tilling the field, which is a 24/7 job, really, to make sure. Why? Because remember, there's no factories, there's no farms. If he doesn't do this, they're going to starve to death, right? So at this point, like I said, Eve is at home taking care of the kids, watching them. And this is important because if she doesn't watch them, they could potentially destroy themselves, mark themselves by accident because they're kids. They don't know no better. So the mother's job is very important. You know, in today's world, we downplay it, but it's important because one thing, think about this too. Taking care of the food, for the most part, the father, like I said, is a 24/7 job, right? So he's not going to be around to be able to always talk to his children and impart his wisdom and knowledge upon them. So it's the children in their states as a baby and just young adolescents. Their true first teacher really is their mother. So also when a man is picking a mate, you know, you also have to think about the woman as far as who she is as a person. Because remember, she's going to be the one around your children, teaching them, raising them. What is she putting in their mind and their spirit? And vice versa. Also, women, think about this as a husband. Because remember, as I said, the man is providing. And this goes further than money today, because this is why I'm breaking it down. I'm trying to teach people, we're going back to the basics. We're going back to the beginning of men and women. So we can, in order to know where you're going, you have to understand where you began. Especially like now, to understand where we went wrong and why things are degrading, you know, are downgrading. I want to say this, and before I keep going, monogamy, in my opinion, is not natural. But monogamy is a necessity when it comes to building a civilization. Now, if you want to live in an anarchist society where there is no protection, where there's no respect, where everyone's just living like animals, if you want to live in a society that is survival of the fittest, then yes, monogamy is not natural. People are going to devolve to their animalistic, fleshly ways, and it's going to be a free fall of just, you know, knocking boots, rocking, just, hey, it is what it is. Monogamy is not natural physically. But for raising children, like I said, if you don't want a degenerate society, a society to be destroyed, a father and mother, a two-parent household is important. It is very important. It is number one. You know, it is just, I'm looking for the word. Anyway, it is indispensable. A mother and father, too, it is indispensable to the raising of a well-rounded, healthy child, son or daughter. I don't care what nobody says. It is. Now, can you raise a son and daughter without that particular background? Yes. But it's not optimal, and there's going to be issues, most likely. And that's how society starts to fall apart and degenerate, right? If you want a society, you want mothers and fathers. If you just want a free fall and everybody doing what you want to do, everybody doing what they want, acting off their instincts and this and that, then there are no monogamous relationships, right? But like I said, I'm just trying to break it down. So not only does the mother take care of the children, but remember too, you thinking of, remember, like I said, there's no stores, there's no factories and things of this nature. So when you go to the store, and this is another thing where people, you know, we take this for granted in the modern age, that when you go to the store, we forget that food is already, technically, most of our food is already prepared for us. All you gotta do is throw it in the oven, or maybe put it on the stove, heat up a little bit, or put it in the microwave. Some stuff, a lot of stuff, you don't have to do that. You just take it out the bag and eat it. Back then, food had to be prepared. Bread bread does not grow in sandwich baggies, family. Bread doesn't grow in shells. Bread is wheat. You have to grow wheat, and you have to refine wheat. So if Adam is out, what I'm saying, tilling the ground, digging up the ground, look, and if anyone's ever done a garden, like a real nice sizable garden in the right way, or even just farming, like I said, period, you know it's not easy work. Some people might even say it's backbreaking, because it's a lot of digging, it's a lot of bending over, it's a lot of moving of dirt and rocks and just breaking the earth. So a lot of work, you know, goes into it. So what I'm saying is, while Adam's doing that, you know what Eve is doing while she's watching the kids? She's the one churning the butter, right? Churning the milk for the butter. She's the one, I think it's called kneading the wheat, or basically breaking down the wheat to turn into flour so they can break bread. So she's putting her back into it and her strength to do that part. It's just Adam is taking care of the more strenuous part, right? So it's teamwork. Like, they need each other, right? What do they say? Teamwork makes the dream work. Because if they don't have each other, they won't survive without each other. Their children won't survive, because they have to be able to provide for more mouths, and they have to start building structure. Children need structure for society, for order. Remember, order out of chaos. You need structure. If they just let their children do what they want and run wild, like I said, their children probably wouldn't be alive, because their children go probably jump off cliffs and stuff. You know, because children could do things like that, because children are very, you know, they're open-minded. They're very, what's the word, curious, right? So, and then once again, now let's go even further. Let's say one day a lion just so happens to, okay, let's not go that straight. Let's say a bobcat, you know, or a mountain lion, right? Something not so big, but you could probably generally handle, right, with a spear. Let's say a strong carnivorous animal one day makes it into the living area, right, of Adam and Eve, right? And it comes in, and it comes near the house, right, where Eve is with the children. Eve is obviously, yes, she's going to try her best to fight off the bobcat, right? But the bobcat's stronger than her. So the only person who could take on the bobcat or the mountain lion is Adam. So he comes in and he puts his life on the line, even willing to give his life for them, to protect his lineage, his wife, his son and his daughter, right? So that's another aspect of it. That's another point of that teamwork. Because imagine if Adam wasn't there and this powerful cat came by and Eve could not fight off the cat. Then the cat would have devoured her and the children. So once again, it's this friendship. But then also, once again, let's say Adam gets hurt from fighting the bobcat, right? From defending the family. Eve is there to dress his wounds and help and take care of him. It's a tit for tat relationship, family. So, and then now let's go into common sense, right? Let's go more so, okay, matter of fact, no, let's not do that yet. So, the picture I'm trying to point, family, is this is where you start off relationships, right? Like, when we look at relationships today, they're more complicated than they should be. Relationships back then were more so based out of necessity. And today they're based more off, and today they're based mostly more off of want, desire, and not necessity. And it's not saying that that's bad, but it's always saying in life you want to have a common balance. But we do everything today, mostly, I would say in general, people act mostly only off of their desire. They don't stop and think about things, about common sense, about life. They don't go back to look at their forefathers. They don't stop to look at where people have gone before us. Because people, I put it like, and people always say too, well, they use the excuse like, well, it's the 21st century. It's, you know what year it is. It's the modern age, right? But if you actually look at the reality of the situation, family, like, let me stop saying that word like. If you actually look at the reality of the situation, family, life in general, and when you use this term modern, it actually doesn't really apply to you. It only applies to us because we give it that power and we change our lives to work around technology. But if we did not change our lives to work around technology, we wouldn't necessarily, in my opinion, and it could change as I'm saying this, trying to work it out, but I think we wouldn't be able to use that word or that phrase so lightly as, you know, modern times. Because we think that just because we drive in cars and fly in planes that we are better than people of the past, or different, or have evolved, but in reality we have not. The only difference between me now and let's say me 2,000 years ago is, okay, I put the difference between me at 22, when I was 22, and me, and let's say me, like I said, 2,000 to 3,000 years ago is, today, I'm picking, or when I was 22, I'm trying to pick up women in a nice Mustang, you know what I'm saying? Nice wheels, tinted, got it all chromed out, looking nice, right? Back then, I'm picking up women on an actual Mustang, a horse. You know, back then, my desire was to, 2,000 years ago, was to, you know, after I grew up, became a man, learn how to grow food, take care of myself, defend myself, hunt for food, possibly make clothes for myself, create a home. Once I learned how to do the basics for basic survival, then the next thing would come, you know, a wife, a mate, right? And then want to have children, and then take care of those children, and then grow old, and then pass away. That would have been, you know, the basis of life. That would have been necessity. And I know that might sound, oh, that's depressing. You know, that's why I live in modern age. We have more choice. And I understand that. But understand this. We live, and this even goes back to the term the Matrix, family. Understand this, family. You live in a matrix, inside of a matrix, inside of a matrix. And then when you go to sleep, and this is another thing, sometimes you dream, when you dream, right? And then sometimes you'll be in a dream inside of a dream. So it's like it's like Inception. You're in a dream, inside of a dream, inside of a matrix, inside of a matrix, inside of a matrix, inside of a matrix. So it goes, like I said, it keeps, the rabbit hole keeps getting deeper, family. So once again, basic, like, once again, fam, to understand relationships today, I'm trying to give you the basics of, if you're a person who actually wants a relationship, an actual working relationship with all the working parts, you have to come to a certain understanding and realization of life. Like, don't get me wrong, some people say they learn this through time, but in today's world, you don't have time because people want their gratitude now. They want the pleasure now. People want things so quick. They're not willing to work for it. They're not willing to look at the reality of situations. People aren't willing to put the work in that is needed to build an actual long-lasting relationship these days. And honestly, too, I would say they don't even know what it is or nor understand what an actual relationship is. And that's why we're having this conversation. So, like I said, the teamwork, Adam and Eve teamwork, right? So I've already outlined certain the benefits, right, of the two. You know, if we're going down to the bare minimum, if we're going down to the beginning of just basic survival, men and women need each other. This is why we mesh together. Even when you think about sex, right? We mesh together. We need each other for survival. Not only physical survival, but emotional survival. I'm not saying we need each other for emotional survival. Now, if you want to be a healthy human being, you don't want to go crazy, yeah. You need them for emotion. Now, physical, like, you'll be fine alone. You might go crazy. Most people probably go crazy. There are those few who will be mentally strong enough to not go crazy. But most people will go crazy if they were just in solitude for the rest of their lives. They would. I would probably. I'm gonna be honest. I believe and know that I could be strong, but if I was literally the last person ever, personally, I would say F it and be delusional. Because if I was the last person ever, there would be no point. Like, if I was it and I was going to die off, there's no point in me being strong. And I'm not talking about hope and there's someone. I'm talking about, like, legit. If it was just me last and there's nothing else, I'm going crazy on purpose, probably. Because there's no point in keeping my sanity at that point. There's nothing left to look forward to but just to survive. And in that state, you can say, oh, you could do something to make yourself, busy. Look, especially if I came from a world where there were people to a situation where all of a sudden the world of people just me, I'm telling you right now, you're going to be depressed. You're not doing nothing. You're probably going to hurt yourself. You don't want to do nothing. And you're going to be so depressed and down, you're not going to be able to think to be doing anything. Maybe, look, I guess everyone disappeared today, the first while. Okay, you know what? Yeah, the first while, you'd have fun because you go around all the stores playing with stuff, doing it. But after a while, dude, you know what? Let's say a world without all this stuff. If you just didn't have a place without all, you would go insane. Because you wouldn't be thinking of ways to create. You'd use what is there, and then after that got old, like I said, your mind would probably be so messed up that you wouldn't even be thinking creatively to invent. That's like I was saying earlier about people and being gods, about what truly being a god is, and having emotions as being a part of God is an important aspect, because emotions are a part of creation. And emotions, like I was saying earlier, if you're all alone, it's the end of the world and there's no one left, like I said, you're going to be so depressed and so mentally probably deterred from doing anything but the basics at first, if you just don't give up altogether, that your mind and emotions aren't even going to be in a good place to even want to probably think, to imagine, you know, to even think of a new invention. Because once again, it's you. You're only going to do what you need. The rest of the time, you're going to mope around and probably just be sad all the time. But anyway, I digress, and I know I be digressing. So, all the time I be digressing, yo. So, once again, family basics. Start from the beginning, family. Look at how the male and the female mesh and work together. And actually, this kind of comes into modern, and today, this is how you come into understanding what the issue is today in today's society, family, and why men and women, especially of late, it's almost like we're at war with each other. Honestly, it's almost like we've been at war with each other since the beginning of time, because we're just two different beings. But obviously, with more bodies and souls on the planet and everything, things get a little more complicated. But it doesn't have to be so complicated. That's why I said we make it more complicated than it has to be. But because of our lack of education and ignorance and understanding, and our lack of understanding of the bigger narrative when it comes to the world, you know, or politics or civilization, you know, is why we're in the situation we are now. So family, once again, understand something. Also understand this before I actually get into this aspect. Matter of fact, let's go back into, if you remember this video, right? Okay, this video right here. So remember the woman, they were talking about how studies have shown that women actually have the DNA of men they slept with in their past still in their bodies. And matter of fact, I heard actually there's a show called Just Pearly Things. I remember listening to her, and she brought up I guess some more interesting facts on the studies that actually they were saying that when a woman sleeps with a man, the DNA of this man stays within her body for up to 7 years before I guess the woman's body fleshes it all out. And that is depending on, I guess, in you no longer having any more contact with this man in general, period, especially sexually. So there's that aspect, and this goes for men and women. This ain't gonna be no. I'm going to try my best to not make this feel like it's one-sided, because when people also have sex, family, we always think that it's no strings attached, right? That there's nothing to it if that's how you want to be, but that's not true. You not only have like in the video, and there goes that word, in the video the woman speaking of STDs, right? But there's also a spiritual aspect. As a matter of fact, I want you guys to look up something called human biofields, right? And this is the study on how the human body actually emits natural energy fields. And if you actually go through my other studies, as we go through this book right here, Keys of Enoch, and not only just this book, but in other research, especially in Buddhism, there's a lot of talk about how the soul is actually an energy source. It's a light source. Light is energy. So this human biofield from my subjective opinion, from my study and research, is actually speaking of your person of higher AI, speaking of your soul. I believe everybody gives off an energy source. But okay, actually I put it like this is how I would say that I would differentiate a higher AI from an NPC. It would be the energy source. A person or a higher AI who has a soul, if you have the right technology and the right know-how, like I forget what the glasses are called where people say their aura. Your aura is going to be a lot bigger, right? It's going to be a lot more powerful, probably a lot more bright on the glasses or the instruments that you use to look at it. Now, NPC would be a person, I would assume, their light is a lot more lower because the soul is a lot more powerful. NPC is only going off the energy source of the body, off the flesh. But a higher AI has the energy source not only of the Bible to move, of the flesh to work, but it also has the added energy of your soul, the spirit. That your soul is energy, it's light, it's, you know what I'm saying? Your soul is like a battery to your body as well. So it gives the body, your avatar, that extra oomph. So when men and women are copulating together or having sex, or however you want to say it, right? You have to think about this. When a man, first off, the man is going, okay, in the Bible, okay, let's start here. When you go to the Bible and it's talking about Israel, or it might be talking about the temple, when you hear terms like that, and this is when I go about earlier when I was talking to you about there's different meanings, like, there go that word again. When the Bible says, if it's talking about a temple, yes, it's talking about a physical temple, as far as a building made of stone and granite and this and that. But on a deeper level, actually, it's not talking about just the physical. This is the difference from, you know, the black and white, the first layer understanding. But as you get older, the temple is not only representing, like I said, a building built with rocks, but the temple is your actual flesh, your body, right? So your temple is, imagine your soul is an energy source that comes from the ether. Your flesh is a vessel that can only live and survive within this dome, within this reality. Oh, let me go ahead and switch the camera, family. I apologize. Your flesh is only your flesh is an avatar suit that can only live and survive within the atmosphere of this dome Earth, right? Of this place where we live. Dome Earth, in my subjective opinion, or subjective truth, I would say. So what I'm trying to say is, wait, what was I trying to say? I lost my train of thought. Okay, yeah. So your body is a temple. So remember, your spirit, your soul is an energy source, right? That possesses this avatar. But because your spirit in nature, I would say your spirit is, it can condense itself, it can expand itself. It can be small, it can be big. It can fit any situation. It doesn't necessarily have to conform to any specific form or shape. So what I'm trying to explain is, your spirit is not the only energy that it is possible for to possess your avatar, this body, right? So like when you read the Bible and you think about the demon legion, and legion is not just one demon, it's a legion, thousands of demons, right? They just all together move as one, almost like the board. We are one, we are legion. So let's say you catch that demon on a spiritual sense, or let's say a bioenergy sense, in a bioenergy way, and you somehow not know that you open up a doorway into your physical temple as a man nor woman, and you've allowed legion to come into your body. So let's say another spirit comes to visit you, not in a physical form, because it doesn't have a physical form, because it's visiting the dome in a spiritual form. So let's say, I guess you could say from, a point of view, let's say it visits you in a dream, right? So I'm just using an example, just kind of maybe get you. I'm trying to paint a picture for you to see which way a spirit would visit you. So it's entering your body, which is your temple. But let's say this is a more, let's say, righteous spirit, right? A more kinder spirit, a spirit filled with more justice, right? And you got a temple, whether you're man or female, full of legion. So imagine, okay, and I'm explaining like this. Imagine you got a friend, right? And when, let's say you, right? When people come to your house, it's all clean, it's all immaculate. People love coming over, sitting down, hanging out, because it's just a pleasant atmosphere. You don't feel uncomfortable, it's cool. You offer food or water, they have no problem because they know how your house is, you know, and how everything is clean and done. But then let's say you go to a friend's house, and now this house got animals everywhere, clothes everywhere, dirty, crazy smells, trash on the floor, just all craziness. Like you don't even feel comfortable to sit down, right? So now imagine your temple. Imagine the temple, your body being the temple for your spirit. Now imagine the temple of someone who, let's say, is more disciplined in life, thinks more about their actions, you know, thinks more before they act, is more cautious about the things they do, the things they put in their body, the things they consume, whether it be physically, spiritually, mentally, however so. So their house is going to be a little more, maybe not perfect, not spick and span, but for the most part, doable, agreeable. There's no big elephant in the room. It's not causing issues. Then you go to the person who has legion in there, and this is a house, there's food on the walls, it's dirty, it smells weird, you don't even want to sit down, the people in the house are mean, there's always anger in the house, fighting. So I'm painting this picture for you, family, because male and female, because this is what you have to think about too when you think about who you lay down with, especially when you say that there's no strings attached. Because matter of fact, let me see if I can bring it. I'm gonna try to let me see if I can kind of give you an example. Okay, so this is an example of what people might say the best way to explain the human biofield, right? This image right here, right? So let me see, can I make it bigger? Okay, no, hold on, let me go back. Okay, anyway, look, we're gonna do it like this. So your body, your spirit, emits an energy field, right? Or another term could be your essence. So when you have somebody come into your essence or into your circle or to your sphere, your universe, right? And let's say they have a more negative energy, and then you put that on top of laying with this person, it's not only especially if this person, if you don't use protection, there's the possibility this person could leave a seed in you. If not, if you're a woman, from a man's point of view, there's possibly maybe this female could have an STD, you know, or vice versa. Once again, for the female, especially for the female and the man, because remember, a man is entering a temple, but a woman, I'll put it like this: when a man and woman are laying together, a man is entering a woman's temple, and a man is entering a woman's temple, but a woman is allowing a man to enter her temple. But when the man leaves, he's taking pieces of her temple into his temple, right? So this is what you have to think of. So if you, let's say you're a positive person, but one day you just happen to go out with friends, you get too drunk, and you meet someone to lay with them. This goes for man or woman. And you lay with this person, being drunk before, not realizing this is a very negative person who's very horrible. And now you've allowed this person, whether in your temple or you have allowed yourself to go inside of this negative temple. And like, for instance, once again, if you're the woman and you sleep with this negative man, now you have just opened the front door of your temple. It's like the vampire. The vampire can't come in. Why? Because can't come to your house without you inviting him. Because the house knows, because it's ruled, because the universe knows the vampire wants to harm you. Unless you inadvertently invite the vampire in. So you inadvertently allow this negative person, because of alcohol, whatever your excuse is, into your temple, And now, like I said, as a woman, now you've allowed legion to cross from his body, from his temple into your temple. And now you got a temple, and now your temple dirty. Or vice versa. You are a man and you go visit inside of a woman's temple, and she got legion inside of there. And when you leave, you think you scot-free, but in reality, no, you got some new friends now. Now they following you. So like I said, not only on a spiritual tip, and then like I said, not only the spiritual tip, but then the physical. You got the STDs, right? And then think about it like this. Where is that other? Your skin, family. What's it say? I pulled this up on Google, and I'm reading about your skin. Your skin is the largest organ of your body, and since it is porous, it absorbs whatever you put on it. A study published in the American Journal of Public Health looked into the skin's absorption rates of chemical found in drinking water. So I say that to say this, family. Think about it from this perspective too, right? So when you're thinking about a man or a woman, right, and you think about two people getting it on, knocking boots. Now I want you to really think about this logically. I don't put it like that. I don't care what nobody say. From my understanding, from my subjective truth, but I believe and know is the truth. This body that we have, family, it's an animal. It is a living organism. Your spirit, and to all my Christian people out there, look. Your body is in the beast class. Your body is an animal, period. Now, just because your flesh is a body does not mean that you act as an animal, because you have a soul. Your soul gives you, that's that image of God. The image of God is your conscience. It's the ability to look at life and see that you are a sentient being, to see that you are a living being, that you are a conscious being. That's that wisdom, the knowledge within your mind. That's the soul. That's the emotions that you have. That's what separates you from the animals. The animals just act off instinct. They're just flesh. You are not just flesh, because you have emotions. You think, you create. Animals only live off what they need. You don't only live off what you need. You live off what you need and what you want. You live off experience. You thrive off experience, right? So, dang, I lost my train of thought, family. Hold on, give me a sec. Okay, so when you lay with people, like I was saying, family, your body. Remember, think about a man and a woman, right? You're laying in bed. You're sweating. You're kissing. Especially today, people tossing salad more. People spitting in each other's mouths. People doing all types of crazy stuff, right? So not only are you taking these foreign bodies into your saliva from licking people's open orifices that lead into their temples or their bodies, but remember, your skin, as I just read, is an organism, and it absorbs the thing. Like, for instance, when you rub your lotion in, what do you think it's doing? Your skin is absorbing it. So this goes for man and woman. You sitting here laying with somebody, you do understand that their DNA, their sweat is literally, remember, when people sweat, sweating is also a form of detox. So if this person has a bad diet, if this person has disease, if this person doesn't live a certain way, you know, when they sweat, everything comes out of their glands. So when you lay with someone in bed, your sweat is mixing. So not only is your sweat seeping into their pores and their skin, and into their body, into their circular system, but their blood and sweat and stuff is seeping into your body. So you also need to take this into account when you're sleeping with someone. You're literally taking their DNA into your body, and then when you're a woman, allowing someone in your temple and this man ejaculates in you, he's leaving his DNA in your body. And that goes back to the video we were watching earlier with the man and the woman. And matter of fact, I want to read a little bit on that, what that's called. And they say it's not all the way proven, but personally, I believe it to be 100% true. As far, this is just, honestly, to me, this is one of those things where it comes back to life and consumerism, because this is how they're able to control us as men and women today's society, through capitalism and consumerism. So of course, and remember, a lot of this stuff is health organization, and these people all work together with the drug organization. You know, the drug institutions, and obviously they're not going to put out information. Look, doctors and nurses and the pharmaceutical companies make money because people are sick. they're not going to want you to live healthier lives. They don't want to tell you the truth so you don't have to visit them all the time. Look, you can believe it or not, but this is in what I'm about to read to you, family. This is just a little bit of an article, and this is in conjunction. I'm going to put in the description box this YouTube video, but this is in conjunction with this YouTube video right here that we watched at the beginning. So if you're a woman, you might have male DNA inside your body. Here's why. Back in summer 2017, a website made a shocking claim that women could permanently retain the DNA of male sexual partners. The story went viral, spurring a string of panic, stoking copycat posts across the internet. The articles all referenced a new study that found evidence of male DNA inside the brains of women up to 94 years old. The study published in 2017 wasn't new, but it was real, lending the idea at least an air of legitimacy. The various articles all came to the same conclusion. The wayward sperm must be at least one reason for the presence of male DNA in women's bodies. When sperm enters a woman, it swims until it hits a wall and then seeps into your flesh, one post claimed. It then enters your bloodstream and collects in your brain and spine. You can never get rid of it. So I'm going to put this in the description box too. But also, family, they say that it's not necessary. This isn't necessarily, as they say, proven. But like I said, with discernment, with doing your own study and research, because this actually, I remember the man saying, I don't know if I showed in the clip, if I listened that far, but like I said, I'm putting a description about, he actually goes to say that this study came about because of actually a different study that they were doing that led to these findings. So this wasn't even a purposeful study. This is just findings they actually found on accident while doing another study. So my point is, family, when you lay with someone, like I say, it's not no strings attached. You're literally taking this person's DNA. Give me a second, family. I apologize. My bad, family. Okay. So you're literally taking on this person's DNA when you lay with someone. So this is also something that you have to keep in mind when you lay down with someone. That, and matter of fact, and to give, I guess, caveat on that, I remember doing research looking into when we were doing the COVID when COVID first started coming out. They were talking about how the jabs, right, how it works is, it was saying that when you put the V into your system, it travels to your brain. So there's proof right there when you put stuff in your body. Once again, chemicals travel to your brain. Things travel to your brain. Remember, your blood circulates, and it goes all throughout your body as well. And it even mentioned it seeps into your bloodstream. So it's taken throughout your body. So what I'm saying, family, is it so hard to believe that when you lay someone and let someone in your temple, specifically this moment too, a woman, is it so hard to believe that this person's DNA is left within your body? And then on the man's side too, once again, you're taking a piece of her too. But then as a man, think about it, right? When you're thinking about a partner, now if you didn't know this is a man, now think about it like this. Let's say you're trying to marry a woman and she's laid with umpteen individuals over the past 7 years, right? Over 7 years, because has consecutive laid with, and let's just say she's got 30 bodies. Let's say you meet this woman and you guys are 27 and you're thinking about getting married. And let's say she got 30 bodies. And she's accumulated these 30 bodies over 7 years. So if this research is coming out that this DNA can stay within a woman for about 7 years, think about this as a man. You are now you're laying with a woman who is going to actively for years have multiple males' DNA within her body. And it's going to affect her not only spiritually, not only physically, but also mentally and spiritually. Matter of fact, if you ever read a book called I forget what it's called. It's a book that a pimp wrote about growing up back in the day. It's called Iceberg Slim. And this is something you look at to where this is something that pimps talk about, where they say that a pimp's woman, their women have mileage on them, right? So in the book Iceberg Slim, basically he explained is that an intelligent pimp, when he gets a woman, he pays attention to how many men she has slept with, right? Because he said in the book, it says that, and you can study this, and honestly, if you look at life, and honestly really apply this to life and look at certain situations, it starts to make sense. But he was saying that he noticed that once his women that work for him, his streetwalkers, once they reached about 100, usually around the time, he said, either once they, once they reached around 80 bodies, he said that's usually when he started to try to look for a girl to replace them. Because he said around 80 bodies, I believe it was 80s, I could be misquoting it, but somewhere around that area, you start to see the effects of his lifestyle on the woman's mindset and how she goes about life and carries herself. And it was saying that by the time she reached 100, he said he didn't, use her anymore, that he would have got another girl, because he said he didn't want it in his mind, because in his theory, once they hit 100, it was like they were messed up for life, like they were irreversible mentally. Not to say that they were less of a person, not saying that, because a person is a person. But and when I say that, because I don't want people to, the way it's up. This is something else I believe. Be careful, like I said, things that we take advantage of. Mental health. You may say to yourself, I'll never lose my mind, I'll never have a mental breakdown or have these issues, or I'll never be depressed, or people like that, right? But as I've gone through life and met different people, or been through different situations, I'm not even necessarily talking about myself, but other people. It's really a thin line between sanity and insanity. You don't know it, but you can lose your mind like that. It can happen in the blink of an eye and you won't even know what happened. And you just get stuck. So, I just want to throw that out there. So, this is things, family, that you have to, and like I said, even myself, I'm not trying to pick on one, it's this for both sides. And then men too, think about it like this. This comes back to no fap semen retention. When you waste your seed, my brothers, you're wasting your potential for creation. The more you retain your semen, the more creative you are. The more you're able to get done, the stronger you are. But when you waste your semen, know that you're actually wasting your literal DNA. You're wasting your essence. You're wasting your power. You're wasting your wisdom. You're aging. It's not good for your back. It takes your youth from you. It's like literally giving away your superpower as a man when you nuts. And then you might ask, well, then why would I make babies anyway? That's the point. You conserve it unless you're really honestly making children. You're mating. Because you're giving your essence to a child, right? But in society today, once again, this is consumerism. Look, discipline doesn't make money for the most part. I mean, discipline can make money for you personally, but discipline isn't good for a businessman or a businesswoman. Discipline isn't good for business. Disciplined people don't buy things. Disciplined people don't buy unnecessary things. So this is what I'm once again bringing up. Also looking into society in the state and decay of society and relationships and families. It goes back to the government. It goes back to the corporations. It goes back to advertisement. It's a lot of mind control, family. So as we keep going, let's keep going. Let's keep going. So we've touched on we've touched on certain aspects. Given examples as far as sex not being strings attached, sex is not no strings attached, basically, right? So now we come to modern day relationships. All right, let's go. Let's talk about, my bad, family, I'm not picking my nose, I got an itch on my. Okay, so how do you get a relationship to work today? Or what's the best way to pursue this? First, once again, you got to be realistic. And you have to look at human beings, and you have to look at how we work and why relationships are failing today for the most part. And for the most part, relationships are failing just really simply because people are selfish. Not only ignorance and not knowing, but I would say actually first and foremost selfishness. Because you have to first start looking, you have to first look at yourself, look within, take responsibility before you can see the truth. But if you're always living in delusional that you're perfect and you never make mistakes and that it's always everybody else's problem and that your way is the only way, then, you know, you're going to be delusional and not be able to see the truth a lot of the times. So, when it comes to relationships, family, you got to look at a human being. And this goes back also to me talking about Adam and Eve, right? And this goes back to this too. So let's say, okay, let's first start with common sense. Take you as a human being. You only need water. You only need water, air, food, shelter, sleep, and clothing, depending on the environment, right? These are things you need. So no matter how hard, in other words, no matter how hard you try to get away from these things, or no matter how hard you try to deny it, these are things that you need, literally, for survival. These are things that you have to have. These are things you need. Like I said, it's almost like A-E-I-O-U, sometimes Y. The clothing is depending on the environment. So that's not necessarily, like I said, always a need. But I say most of the time it's a need. But there are specific situations where, you know, anyway. So when you take this in mind, right, and then you're looking at, like I was talking about earlier with Adam and Eve, an example. People lived more back in the day from necessity, more so over than desire, right? So when you're looking, and that hasn't changed today, and actually that goes back to my thing about technology, and saying something modern, and that actually being deception, and it's actually very defeating to society, because it's giving this illusion that we're different. Once again, like I said earlier, but we're not different. And actually technology is one of those things that's making technology has the ability to make life, yes, a lot easier, but it also has a negative side. It's like a double-edged sword, to where within the easiness it can actually cause issues and dysfunction, because it takes away from people. It takes jobs away. It takes away from purpose. People need purpose. Without purpose, we're just living. We're just surviving. We need a purpose, right? So, hold on. So with that said, right, when you look at a relationship, first thing you want to look at, right? Okay. First thing you do first things first, self-respect. Or as people say, self-love. I kind of don't like the word love, because within this dome, within this universe right here, I personally don't think that, for the most part, I don't think we're capable of love, and so my opinion personally, it's not a real thing, especially how we're taught. Now, I think the aspects of so-called love, but remember, I just said aspects. Most people don't even acknowledge or know that there are aspects to love. So I don't like the word love. I like what it actually is, to what we refer to. So this is important, because first, in order, like they say, before you get in a relationship, you really should know yourself first, or so-called love yourself first. And how do you know or love yourself first? I'm gonna try to make it basic and not try to get too deep on it, so we can, for the sake of time, and keep going. But, well, it's not really a but. So, in other words, respect, right? Respect in general, and this is part of the love, or the so-called love. I'm talking about respect. Okay, look, what is respect, right? Hold on, let me look up the definition of respect. Let's look that up, right? Respect. Let's put up respect. Oh, my bad, mistype. Respect definition, right? So, a feeling of deep admiration for someone or something, elicited by their abilities, qualities, or achievements, right? Due regard for the feeling, wishes, rights, or traditions of others, right? Admire someone. Okay, maybe that's not the right word. Well, I believe it's the, what was it? Respect of. Okay. Well, actually, it's in there. Rights, wishes, and rights, right? Due regard. Okay, it's regard, right? So let's look up the word regard. Just follow me for a second. I'm trying to explain something. Let's look up regard. So consider or think of, right? Specify, attention to or concern, right? So I know what I'll call this. So the first aspect of love in this situation, right, and in it, or so-called love, or as we go into trying to teach the class about self-love, right? The first important notion to this is the first important part, because nothing else works out the right way or the best way with order without this first step. Otherwise, it's gonna be messed up. The first step, and I'm gonna point it right here. We're going to call it respectful regard for others. That's the first step. It is respectful regard for others. And what would be the definition of respectful regard? It would be, I would say right here, attention to or concern for something. You know, best wishes used to express friendliness and greeting, especially the end of the letter. So, or like go back to respect, admiration for someone's abilities and things of this nature, right? So combine those two. That's going to be the first step of love. First step to so-called love, right? But also respect, not only in this respectful regard, applies not only to yourself, but to other individuals around you, within your universe, within your sphere, extending to family members, strangers on the street, friends, intimate partners, just also nature, animals, people's property, things, the air, if you believe in the creator, and just a general respectful regard for life. This has nothing, and like I said, this has nothing to do with relationships or type. This is just in general. Like for instance, if you have a snail, if you walk in and the snail crosses in front of you, have a general respect and regard for that snail's life by not standing on it and killing it just because you're in a rush, or because you just don't respect its life and you think it's nothing because it's little insignificant, so you step on it and kill it. So first, it's respect of life in general, of other space, right? And that goes for you. And so I talk about loving you. So in other words, respect for you, right? And how does that look? That is first, okay, for instance, in the Bible, it speaks about, when it speaks about a man, how a man should take care of his wife, right? It says a man should take care of his wife as he takes care of himself. And what it's saying, in other words, basically, as we get back into so-called self-love, first, in other words, like if I'm a man, do I have a roof over my head? Am I able to keep food in my refrigerator, keep myself fed? When I wake up, do I brush my teeth, wash my face, do I comb my hair? Do I do I take care of myself just in general? And it's not, and it doesn't necessarily have to do with style, because style is also, I would say that's subjective. But I'm just saying in general, the basics: brush your teeth, comb your hair, basic hygienic things for your health, right? And eating food, right? Mental health, things of that nature. So that's the first part. Take care of yourself, right? Now, the other aspect of that respect of self is also respecting yourself when it comes to those who you allow in your life, like your mental and spiritual health. Like for instance, I don't care if it's family, blood, or someone who not blood. It doesn't matter who it is, so-called best friend. If there's someone in your life who is always causing you mental stress, causing you issues, because remember too, they were speaking about COVID, when stress actually leads to sickness as well, because your body isn't working at its best, at its peak performance, especially when it comes to healing and casting sickness and all type of diseases out of your body, cleansing your body, right? Detoxing your body. It doesn't work as good when you're under stress, right? And you have a lot of negativity on you. So Dang it. I always hate when I lose my train of thought. So, hold on. Give me a second, family. So, we talking about... Okay, yeah. So, for instance, in the Bible it says you should forgive 70 times 70, correct? But this also comes to but the Bible also says do not add to or take away. And if you go to church, a preacher might sit here and say forgive 70 times 70, right? And you might be like, sound good, but he's trying to sit here and tell you, right? But what he doesn't explain, right? And okay, this is the issue when a preacher just states just forgive 70 times 70 when he's trying to give you this blanket statement of forgiveness across the board. What he does not tell you is that the Bible does not tell you to continue. This is why I say don't add or take away. This is why I say use wisdom and discernment. The Bible, even though it says forgive 70 times 70, it doesn't tell you to keep hanging out or putting yourself in the situations and presence of people and circumstances that continue to hurt you. Yes, forgive. If someone hurts you, yes, forgive you. But I'll put it like this. If someone hurts you once and you go back, okay, you give them a chance. 2 times, look, you messed up. But the 3rd time, look, I'm done. By the 3rd time, you leave. But the 3rd time, you still forgive. Like you forgive the first 2 times. But this time, you don't go back. That's the difference. You only have to forgive 70 times 70 because you keep going back and being hurt. So in other words, you keep giving them, you keep putting yourself in a situation where you have to forgive someone, right? So that's another part of self-love, or so-called self-love when it comes to relationships, is if someone's not treating you right. You know, personally, I don't believe in this whole dating boyfriend girlfriend thing. I think that's a cop-out. That's an excuse so people don't feel bad about having sex with people who they're not committed to, because children come from sex. But nonetheless, it's neither here nor there. Even though I don't think monogamy is natural, but once again, order out of chaos. If you want a degenerate society where no one's going to benefit after a while except for a few because survival of the fittest, then, you know, stuff like that, you got to be careful. You have to watch how you go about things. So, hold on. I lost my train of thought again, family. So, yes, once again, so that's very important. This is why I say they talk about so-called loving yourself first. Because if you don't truly have respect, or like I say, a respectful regard for yourself first, then anybody can come in your life and talk to you anyway, treat you anyway. And because you don't have that true respect for yourself, you allow them to run you through the dirt and treat you bad. You have to first, and this has nothing to do with being cocky and arrogant. This is just understanding what respect is as a person. Don't put your hands on me. Don't put me down. If we have an agreement that we're in a relationship, you know, you shouldn't be going around cheating unless you both have an agreement that it's an open relationship or you're polygamy or whatever. But if it's just a regular run-of-the-mill monogamous relationship, it needs to be verbal. It needs to be put out there. Like, you guys need to have an understanding, communication of what this is. No games. This is what it is. This is what we do. If you want to break that contract, go your business. You don't have to cheat and do all that. Go your way. For both, I know people say it's not that easy, but it actually is. It's when you can't control your emotions. When you let your emotions control you, then you hurt people more and you make situations worse because you don't use your common sense and wisdom. So, like I said, first part, respect. That's what I'm saying. It's important. Respect yourself first and foremost. Oh, another thing, going out and self-love and respect does not automatically mean go out and start having sex with every Tom, Dick, and Harry you find. It doesn't mean going to buy a bunch of clothes. It doesn't mean go get a pedicure, manicure. It doesn't mean necessarily even go work out. Now, I'm not saying that these things can't help or you shouldn't do these things, especially makes you feel good. But that essentially really is not, that has nothing to do with respecting yourself. Look, if in my society, it is just required to have some clothes on, right? Right? Just so you're not naked, right? And brush your teeth, wash your face. Respect is what I'm saying. My bad, family, I heard it. So, respect is just basically, I wake up, brush my teeth, wash my face, put a potato sack on, go outside. That's it. I'm respectable. That's what my respect, this, like I said, this is subjective too, because what I'm saying also comes off standards of society, but I'm trying to simplify it. I don't want to add ego to it. I don't want to add people's traditions. I'm just talking about flat out respect. Is just, like I said, for yourself. It's just, you know, not adding all this. I don't want to add ego or made up personality. Respect is, like I said, take care of yourself. Be cognizant of how people treat you. Be cognizant of people putting their hands on you trying to hurt you. Respect yourself. So there you go. Now the second step is you have to understand passion. And this even goes funny. This is the second aspect of so-called love, right? Or of important to know for self-love or being in a relationship. The second aspect is passion, right? Because, and I say this because love, family, has to be maintained. Love is created. Or so-called love, and you'll understand as I keep going. So first aspect is respectful regard for all life in general. The second aspect of so-called love is passion. Because let's say, okay, I gotta put this PSA. To me, and you have to understand this too, to me, love, from me studying love and thinking about it, meditation and research, essentially love to me boils down to what it an aspect of so-called love. If, like I said, love isn't just love. Just love isn't to me is not singular. Love is plural, right? Or so-called love is plural. So in other words, love, one of the well, I'm not say most important because it's not, but the aspect of love that most people focus on is joy. Because when I see love, or at least what society has taught us, what most people think it is, it's like I'm pretty sure most people heard this when someone asks someone, and someone says, I love you, or right, or I love this person, and people ask, well, how do you know you love them? They say, because I just know, because it's just how I feel, right? So that lets me know that love in society is considered to be an emotion, a feeling. And when I think, and I know people say love or hurt, I don't consider that love. I think that's just hurt. I think that's a lie. I think what I'm saying is the joy aspect. In other words, how life works. Think about it like this. Let's say, like for instance, ice cream is a favorite of mine. Ice cream is just, to me, the bee's knees. So a lot of years, I would say, and I would say in a way true, I love ice cream, right? But if we're applying that love to, like, say, the love of the person, not to say it's the same as two people so-called loving each other, but I'm trying to use this as an example. Because in life, whatever, in other words, when I imagine myself eating ice cream, right, it tastes really good. And because it tastes really good, what happens? It gives me joy, right? I get joy from it, from them endorphins, right? Like if you smoke or drink or anything you do that gives you joy, it causes you endorphins. And there are certain things that give us an immense amount of joy, right? A joy that we find ourselves in our minds saying, I want this again, I want to try this again, I never want to leave this, I want this. And when we find this joy, this large amount of endorphins, right? This large release of endorphins within our bloodstream in our body, right? And when we have this feeling, what do? We tack this word on it called love. And now and essentially, family, when you look at this, honestly, and this is why I'm trying to explain something, from at least the love today that we confuse, that we go around throwing, the love that we live off is actually really, it's actually lust and it's lust over consumption. Yeah, that's pretty much what it is, because it's not having discipline for something that gives you joy. So it's like you lose your mind for it. That's honestly, that's where, you know, essentially, isn't that where when people start using the words like lust, right? Overconsumption, it's usually because someone is using something without discipline. Someone is overusing something. Someone is overdoing something. Someone is obsessed with something. There's another word, obsessed. Something's addicted to something. That's that word, really, that's what, if you don't understand, like I said, these aspects of so-called love, and you don't get control and discipline on them, that's what this word, what joy will do to you. Joy can lead you to be a drug addict. Because crack gives people joy. Whether you know it or not, crackheads get joy from doing crack. Otherwise, they wouldn't do crack. They get joy from it. So this goes back to passion, right? So first, respectful regard for life in general, right? That's respect for yourself, for your neighbors, for the animals, for the plants. Just respect, right? Period, right? Okay, now passion. Now passion is something that is allowed to happen. Like I said, it all has to work in conjunction. Passion is allowed to happen because of the respectful regard, the first step, right? So for instance, let's say I want to be a writer. Let's say my joy comes from writing. My joy comes from people reading what I write and learning from it and talking to me and telling me they enjoy my story. This is where my joy comes from, right? But I first have to build this joy. And how do I build this joy? Through passion, right? So, but first I have respect. So let's put it like this. Let's say I'm a married man. I got a wife and kids, right? So I'm a book writer. So in order for me to write this book, right, I need a quiet environment, right? I need a peaceful environment. So let's say, like I said, I got a wife, I got 2 kids. Because they know that I'm a writer, this is how I pay the bills, you know, but this is also what I enjoy doing, what brings me joy. And they know, because they know I am, when they know that I'm writing, I tell everybody, hey, I'm writing, so please keep it down so I can concentrate, you know. So out of respect for me and who I am, out of a respectful regard for me being, you know, the father and the husband, and me trying to and me providing and doing what I do, the house comes to a quietness so I can focus, right? So because they're respectful to who I am and what I'm doing in my craft and that environment, now I'm able to pursue my passion. You know, I'm able to show my passion for my joy, which is writing, right? Think about passion of the Christ. Why do people say Christ is passionate? They're saying his passion is his actions. Passions is like another word or way of describing a person's actions for something they believe in or something desire or want. In the Bible, Yahushua's passion was being an example for the gospel, delivering the gospel, being, you know, being an omen, right? That was his passion. His passion was beliefs. And people like he was so passionate about his belief that he was literally willing to die for it, give his life for it, which he did. So that's that passionate part, right? The passionate, once again, starts with respect. And when things start respect, now respect develops an environment to where because you have respect, now you're able to, it affords you the ability to pursue your passion, right? So now we got passion down. So now once you're ready to pursue your passion, now you're able to pursue your passion. So now that I've been able to pursue my passion, I'm writing, now I've written the book, right? So now I've written the book. So now I put the book out, it's selling in stores, people reading it, I'm on the news, I'm on YouTube, I'm doing interviews, people are talking about my book, and now I just got all this joy because I'm looking at the fruits of my labor that I would have not been able to enjoy if I did not first have a respectful environment so that I could pursue my passion to write this book. And now that this book is written, I am reaping the benefits of it, which give me joy, which is money, my family's taken care, roof over my head, notoriety, fame, and voila, there you go. That is this in this family right here is what real love is. Love is not singular, it is plural. Love is different aspects. And in order for a relationship to really work, you have to understand this, family. We can no longer go off this fairy tale Disney Channel love that people talk about. You know what I'm saying? This ain't Cinderella. This ain't that. This is real life, and we're working with real people. So we got that down. Now the next thing you need to know, like I said, that love, this so-called love thing, it's important that you come to that understanding, right? So the next thing for a working relationship is you need to know, so going through this thing and knowing yourself, like I said, respecting, as you go through this process, you should, in order to respect yourself, you should learn yourself and know who you are, right? So in other words, you start to learn what you can handle and what you cannot handle. And this takes being honest with yourself. This takes being honest with yourself as far as your capabilities. Now look, I'll put it like this. I am one of those people who like to say, look, anything is possible. Anybody can do anything they want, but within reason. And when I say within reason, you need to take in consideration time, situation. In other words, who, what, where, when, and why. Like, for instance, if I had a son, right? And hold on, I want to make sure I don't okay, so if I had a son, right, I might tell my son, you can be anything you want. Matter of fact, you be president. But in order to be president, son, I'm gonna be honest with you. I know you're only 10, but you have to start now. Paying attention to school, doing everything you can, because this is something. Being president is something you have to work hard for all your life, and even then, it's not gonna be guaranteed. Yes, son, you can do it, but I need to be honest that there's a chance it might not work out. It's not gonna be easy. You get tired of it, but if you really want it and put the work in, you could do anything you want within reason, depending on, you know what I'm saying, and then your age and all that too. So I'm all for that. So the reason and once again I say that too, because to bring up this point to where it's like, and this comes into psychology and people too. You have to understand yourself, how you work and how people work, the body work, how people's minds work, and this love. Like, for instance, if you honestly take time and pay attention to relationships in life, and if you've ever had the chance to be in a long-term relationship, right? Or a relationship for, I wouldn't even say necessarily long-term, but even short-term too, you can see this example. But long-term is the best example, and especially a long-term couple who's been together for a long time, or even divorced couples. Life in general, and this comes back to, like I said earlier, there's a difference between wants and needs. We talked about needs earlier, but then there's a difference between wants and needs. And how I told earlier, monogamy, family, is not necessarily natural. It is a necessity for society to run well. It is a necessity for society, but it is not necessarily natural, and it is not needed. You're not going to die without having sex or being in a relationship, right? But it is a necessity for a society to work properly, right? So with that, you need to understand that, once again, wants and needs. So you understand that anything that is not a need, essentially in life, you will get tired of. I don't care what it is. If it is not a need and then it is a want, eventually one day, like I said, before you get it, it's going to be everything you want. You're like, I want it because you don't have it. You want it. And then once you get it, you're going to be so excited, and that excitement and that want and desire for it is going to last, depending on the object. You know, maybe, I say depending on the situation, I'll give whatever it is. If it's not a need, I give it a couple years. For the most part, I would say for most things, give it a couple years before you get tired of it. Before you really start to, and if not, I'll put like, if you're not completely tired of it by 2 years, you've at least started to even see the effects of you getting tired of it, right? So you have to understand that, once again, like, people are fickle. Like earlier, when I was talking about love, in the aspect of so-called love that we focus on in society today is the joy aspect, right? And when we focus on that, and that comes back today when people talk about people want their prize. They want what they want now. They're not willing to wait. They're not willing to work for things. They want their pleasure now, right? Their joy now. So when you take this into consideration, you think about a relationship, think long term, right? And I was talking about, go back to older couple, people been together for a long time. Anything that is not a need, right? So, and for instance, like obviously relationships. When you first get with somebody, and I'm gonna use me for example. Let's say I meet a girl today, right? And we have a great conversation, we talk. You know, and let's say we start dating, or so-called, even though I don't believe it, let's just say for today, right? We start so-called boyfriend, girlfriend. And we start, you know, we're doing it, everything, we just head first, without even thinking about it. So let's say now we're 3 months in, and things just become stale. And we're not really talking no more. Matter of fact, we even start hanging out, stop hanging out a lot. Matter of fact, to the point where we just kind of ghost each other. We just stop hanging out. And you know why that happened? And I'll put it like this. If you're looking at it from a spiritual point of view, or the creator, or marriage, you might think that if we ghosted each other or said we broke up, we're broken up. But in reality, you're not. You only think you're broken up and not together anymore because this is what society, a consumer society, society wants to control you, has taught you. Because you look at marriage a different. Remember earlier I read Genesis, right? And I was reading about Isaac and Rebekah, right? And remember how it said that when Rebekah first saw Isaac, it says when they first met, she got off her camel and they went in Isaac's tent, his mother's tent, and they became married. And remember, it was late at night, and they just showed up. And remember, Isaac didn't know they were showing up. So they didn't just have a wedding ceremony. In other words, what happened, family, is Rebekah showed up, Isaac saw her, they just met, he took her off the tent, took her in the tent, laid her down, and knocked them boots, clapped them cheeks. That's what happened. That's basically, just to make it simple, that is what happened between Isaac and Rebekah. He met her that day, that moment, took her in the tent, clapped them cheeks. As the word says, when two come together, they'll become one. That's what happened. Just like we talked about earlier, and the lady even brought up, whoever you sleep with, that's when you sleep with someone, you sleep with everyone they slept with before. Your body, a man leaves his DNA in you, right? So there's all this stuff to consider. And then also, like I said, on a spiritual side, when you lay with someone, that's the marriage ceremony. It's not the church and the preacher reading in front of you. That really has nothing to do with a marriage. And actually, that's something else you have to understand. And you have to get this in your mind. As an adult, if you don't understand that the basics of a relationship is truly every day you wake up, you have to make a conscious effort to realize and know and work on the fact that you're in a relationship. It's an everyday thing. It never stops. It's constant. It's not always going to be fun. You have to understand this. A relationship doesn't just necessarily happen. You have to work on it every day for the rest of your life. It's work. It's not easy. It's not fun. And you have to come to this understanding. And once again, back to the butterfly. So what I'm saying is, when I first get, and this is all relationships. I don't care what nobody says. When you first get with somebody, at first it's really exciting. It's something new. But in time, as you continue to get used to each other, you'll notice that it's not as exciting as it used to be. It starts to your relationship starts to lose that pizzazz. It starts to lose that, that excitement. Now, it doesn't mean you don't care for the person anymore. But actually this comes into maturity too in the person. See, a person who doesn't have true understanding of what a real relationship is, doesn't have, who isn't really mature, when they lose that feeling of joy, of that constant joy, because in the beginning of a relationship, right, especially, if you're both really attracted, you like, there's a lot of joy because you're probably having sex, you're kissing, you're going through all the fun stuff. But as time goes on, you start getting used to each other and real life starts to set in, that joy starts to leave. It's not to say that the joy leaves all the way, or that even if it did leave off all the way, it doesn't ever come back. It's just that if you don't understand that this is life and how it's always going to be, you'll shoot yourself in the foot. Like, for instance, you'll get in situations where, once again, a relationship starts off fast, there's a lot of joy up front, and then things start to slow down, and then all of a sudden, real life hits. And all of a sudden, those two people are broken up. And one person might use the excuse and say, and people might be like, well, why'd you break up with them? It's just, because I just didn't feel the same anymore. I fell out of love with them anymore. I just don't love them anymore. Because they're thinking joy. They're thinking that feeling of joy is love, and that's all there's to it. But that's not true. Love starts with a respectful regard for life, all life, and property in general. For all life, nature, and property in general. Followed by passion. The ability to pursue what gives you joy. And then followed by the joy. The joy which is the manifestation of the respect and passion that you had already showed to that point to give you the ability to manifest the joy that you feel at this moment. And you have to understand that, family. You have to truly comprehend this and understand this to really, really have a long, truly happy, long-lasting relationship. You have to get in your head that, when that time of when the butterflies leave, when for instance, when you look at when a husband looks at his wife after being together for years, or a wife looks at her husband after together, it's not that you don't feel the same joy for them anymore, or that you don't care for them. It's just when you were young, it was more, like I said, it was new. It was like you felt like you had butterflies. You know, they no longer give you butterflies because you're used to them. It's nothing new. But that's not an excuse to say you don't so-called love them anymore, or that's not an excuse to break your vows or your contract with each other to be with each other. That's just life, and understanding that when that comes, that's why, matter of fact, Jordan Peterson, I thought he had good advice. He was saying when you're in a relationship, you should at least, he's like, without a doubt, without question, there's no excuse, at least one date night a week, if you can, two. And you should always make, I think he said at least once a week, if not once a day, make an effort to sit down with each other for at least an hour to an hour and a half to listen and talk to each other. I think he said at least once a week. And you do that for your whole marriage. And that keeps things going. That keeps spice. It helps keep you both involved in each other's lives, so you don't start to drift apart and become strangers within a house with each other. Right? So like I said, family, take this in mind. So I said you have to understand, like they said, this is very important. I always see this. This is like a major ending for marriages in general. I see is people just in reality, like I said, they say every other excuse just to basically come down to the point that no matter what you say, it's really just you're bored or you're not sexually attracted to the person anymore. But that has nothing to do, like I said, most important first part to a relationship is respect. The respect is what holds the when the joy isn't around and you guys are going through stuff and you might want to leave. The respect that you gave your word to this person, the respect for this person, you might even want to call it friendship. That respect for life in general. Like for instance, let's say I'm a man, right? Well, obviously I'm a man. Let's say I have kids, right? And I'm a farmer, and we survive off this food. And let's say my wife and my kids one day, we get in a big argument and it's them against me. They say some disrespectful stuff. Not saying it's right, but let's just say something happened, right? And I get so mad, I run out the house and leave. And then I decide that because I'm so mad at them, I'm like, forget y'all, that I decide not to take care of my responsibilities as a farmer, growing food, right? So with that said, if I remember I said earlier, farming is a 7-day, 24/7, 7-day-a-week job, right? If I stop taking care of my job as a farmer, guess what happens? My family starves. I starve because I stopped taking care of my responsibilities to the family. Why? Because I got my feelings hurt. But here's the thing. Here's the thing about that respect part. That's why I say you have to separate when you have to understand what love is. Because if you don't understand the love that we think today, that the part of love or so-called love that we pay most attention to, if you don't understand it's the joy part, then every time you don't feel that anymore, you're not gonna understand that. You're gonna think you don't love someone or so-called or care about anyone, and it's gonna make you neglect your word or neglect responsibility because you think life is about being joyful and happy 24/7. When your emotions, remember, love is supposed to be unconditional, but your emotions change like the weather. People's emotions change like they change their draws. One moment you're happy, one moment you're sad. But if you're basing your love off of that right there, brother, sis, you set yourself up for failure because it's not real. It's a lie. It's fake. That's not actual so-called love. Respectful regard for others in life and nature, passion and joy. All that right there, I'm telling you, if you break it down, that sums up what so-called love should be. It should be unconditional. And that's what it is. Like when you, family, like friend, okay, take it like this. If you go to a concert, right? Like let's say one of those concerts, talk about Feed the World concert, right? And they might have logos, and the logos might be hearts, and they're talking about spread the love around the earth, right? When you're going to concerts and events like this, World Peace events, and they're talking about feeding, the sick, fixing poverty, things of this nature, and they're talking about where's the love at? Family, they're not talking about sex. What they're saying is people need food, they need water, they need shelter, they need help. In other words, do you respect rich people and people have money? Do you have a general respect? Do you have a general respectful regard for life that when you see people starving and help in need, that you're willing to pitch in a hand to help these people get what they need to survive, just like you have what you have to survive. So you're grateful for that. So wouldn't it be nice if they had something to be grateful for their survival? So think about that in time, right, family? So, but like I said, it's important to understand the butterfly stage doesn't last forever. Yeah, at first, it's the most potent, it's the great, but after a while, family, it's going to dissipate. And then it's going to come in spurts and moments. And then you'll really start to see that joy is not a constant thing, that joy has to be maintained. Joy is something, it's like you spend 2 months, right, working hard, suffering, going through for 4 hours of joy. 2 months of suffering for 4 hours of joy. And a lot of time, it's longer than that. For a few minutes of suffering. A minute, 12 minutes, 15 minutes, like they say, 15 minutes of fame. You spend 20 years of suffering for 15 minutes of joy. And literally, that's how life could work. But that's just, it is what it is. You work towards, you know, that desire, that dream, that joy that you want to experience. And once again, that comes back to relationships and being intelligent, you know, having emotional maturity to understand what the situation is and not running away. You know, and if I didn't finish earlier, like I was saying, if my family pisses me off, you know, I have respect for life, that just because they piss me off doesn't mean I stop working on the crops. Because if I don't do my job, if I don't get out of my feelings, my family and me will starve to death. So that's what I'm talking about, that respect first. So I need to respect the fact that as a man, and this goes back again, when you have sex, there's no strings attached. When you have sex, it is possible to have a baby. So as a man, when I have sex with a woman, especially if I'm not using a condom and I call myself working, depending on the pull and pray method and things of that nature, condoms break. Sometimes birth control fails. Sometimes women lie or men lie. You never know what's going to happen. But understand that as an adult, babies come. And you should, before you even have sex, you should be, whether you are ready financially or not, you should already be mentally ready, that once knowing and ready that I know that once I have sex, a baby's possible. So you should already be ready. And I don't mean, like I said, I don't necessarily mean ready financially, but ready to accept the fact that you are a father and ready to take care of your due diligence to be a father. And the same thing for a mother. And this is another thing too, family. Look, this goes back to Adam and Eve in my explanation earlier. Anybody could be a husband or wife if they want to be. But not everybody is willing to do it. Any woman can have, most women can have a baby. But not every woman can be an actually good mother. And that's not all dependent on her. Sometimes it depends. Remember, it takes two. Right? So the father's not doing his half already. So if the father has a house already, in my opinion, she's not a good mother. Not by choice. And not that she's not a decent person. But if I'm looking at the example and what I've been told a good mother is, by default, because the father is not there, she cannot be a good mother, because it's not her job to be, especially if you have a son. She's not a man. She cannot teach her son to be a man. So by default, she cannot be a good parent, because she doesn't have the other half. Without the other half, it doesn't work right. There's always going to be something missing. Vice versa, a father and a daughter. You know, yes, people have opinions about a father being a better parent, a better single parent, and I can see that in aspects as far as, you know, teaching your children how to survive and support themselves from a man point of view. I get that. But also a woman misses that feminine value, that feminine aspect of a mother when she doesn't have a woman around. So she has a father, yeah, she can take care of herself, make money, but she'll probably have relationship issues because she has no idea what it is for a man and a woman to be in a relationship, because she didn't have that example before her. So these are things, once again, family, like, it's important. Once again, communication. So like I said, these are things you have to come to terms with. These are things that people don't tell you. It's like people don't tell you that old people, like, look, some old people fought like cats and dogs until the day they died in a relationship, but they cared about each other. And some people were kind, but don't act like they didn't never have argument. You know what I'm saying? And like I said, people get bored. Family in general, you need to accept this life. And let's go. Once again, back to Adam and Eve. Remember, in the beginning, there was no college. There were no clubs. There were no fast cars. There were no theme parks. There was just survival. They worked on survival. They worked on eating. They worked on what they were preparing. They were preparing food for the next day, and next day on and on. Survival. This understand this. Life is monotonous. Life gets boring. But know that joy can become an addiction, and it can actually destroy your life. It can actually run people away. You know, this why and when you don't understand what love is, honestly, when you tell someone you love that you love them, if you don't understand what love is, or so-called love, it can actually be very selfish. Because you can be in a relationship with someone and be like always telling someone, I love you, you know, you make me feel so good, and you're my love, you bring me joy, you know, and you say stuff like that. And as you're saying this and you're sitting there smiling, you don't even realize that the person who you're saying this to is kind of just sitting there, they're not even really listening. They're like, yeah, okay. Like they hear you, but they're just like kind of over it. Because what you don't realize is while you're sitting here telling them why you love them, you failed to mention that everything that gives you joy, everything, you know, you're saying right now, is all things that this person does for you to give them joy. You know what I'm saying? So keep following me. But if you look at them in their life, and you might, and I ask myself, so if they're saying all this to you, and they got this face like, okay, whatever. If that's really how they make you feel, and on the outside looking in, you might, oh, you guys have the best relationship everywhere. That's great. You know, from the outside looking in. But you might ask, well, why does he look like that? Well, he looks like that because, yes, you're happy, you're great, you have everything you need. But I can't go through a list and name all the things you do for me to give me joy. I can't name the little things you do to make me smile. Because I'm always doing things for you. But when it comes to me, I don't have anything. So this love that you feel like you have for me because of everything I do for you, because of the joy that you get by the things that I do for you and give you, you don't give me that same joy. So while you sitting here saying you love me, I got to be honest, I don't feel the same, because you don't give me the same joy that I give you. Whatever joy you're feeling, I don't feel it. So I don't love you. So in other words, you know what I'm saying? Even though I give you joy, you don't give me joy. So that's another way to look at it, family. And also remember this, family. This is important. And the people said this. Look, I've had this conversation with, when people come up to me and ask me, and they'll tell me stories about a relationship, about somebody they're with, and they're trying to ask me, do you think this person wants me? Do you think this person wants to be at me? Obviously, too, every situation every situation is not necessarily the same. Situations dictate. You know what I'm saying? Each situation should be detailed to those specific individuals. Oh, hold on, family. So, dang it. Okay, so let's say in this situation someone's talking to me and they're like, whether it's male or female, and they're asking me, hey, they're going down there and they're telling me about this person, and they're like, you know, I'm texting this person. They always take days to text back. I only see them once a week. When I tell them how I feel, they just don't say nothing. They just look at me, and then they might just go back to kissing me. And we just, you know what I'm saying? They really don't pay me too much attention. When we're together, it's cool, but the other time I don't hear from them. You know what I'm saying? Things of this nature. And then it might even be like, it sometimes be a situation where it was like that for a few months, to the point to where it's like, I haven't even heard from them in a month. Or if not even that drastic, I haven't heard from them once in 3 days, right? So what I always tell people is this, once again, family, common sense. And if you've ever been in a situation to where you have mutually liked someone, right? To where it's a relationship where you like someone and they like you back equally, where you both really like each other, right? If you've ever been in that situation, you understand that there is reciprocation, right? And not only that, but because you like that person, it's almost like, you know, say a new episode. I mean, a new relationship, butterflies in the stomach. you know that if that person called you, like for instance, if I was with a woman that I really cared about and who really cared about me, like we reciprocated the feelings, did stuff with each other. It was just like a real relationship, right? I know without a shadow of doubt, if she called me right now, I mean, obviously if I wasn't recording, take care of business. If I wasn't taking care of business and everything, and obviously she would understand in that case. But if everything was right and I had free time, whatever, she called me right now, I would be over there. No questions asked. Matter of fact, she'd be over my spot, I'll be over her. We probably practically live together. You know what I'm saying? That's how it worked. If it was fluid, right? And once again, I'm not against cohabitating if you're not in a mindset of really being with someone. But anyway, so dang, I always forget where I'm at. So yeah, what I'm saying is, or vice versa, like I said, if I feel that way about her, she called me, I'll be there, drop of a dime. Same thing for her, right? No questions asked. I'm going to be there. But if you're ever having this conversation with anyone, telling them about someone that you have feelings for, or you found yourself catching feelings for, having a crush for, and now you almost find yourself going crazy, wondering why they don't text you back all the time or call you all the time, or why they're never around, or why they never ask you to hang out, or you're wondering if they really like you or if they're playing games. Look, this is facts. Take this. If you ever want to know where someone's heart is, or where someone's desires truly are, what they really want, or what they really care about in life, look where they put their time and their actions, their desires. You can't sit here and tell me every minute of the day, you as a person, whatever it is you want to do, you can't sit here and tell me you're not necessarily doing it within reason. Well, you're not necessarily always doing something that you don't want to do. Even if you work in a job, you don't necessarily want that job, but you want the money, so you do what you have to do to get it. So what I'm saying, nothing is necessarily, you know, for no reason. And I lost my my point of view again. Dang it. So, oh yeah, so basically, if you want to know if somebody likes you, stop, look to your left, look to your right, look behind you, look up, look down, look diagonal, you know, look all around you. And if that person is nowhere to be seen, nor have they been anywhere to seen for a very long time, nor have they called you, text you, they not dead, nothing wrong, you just answer your question. Because I think we've all seen those couples who really care and they just together all the time. So once again, when you really like someone, when you really into someone, when you really have someone that you want to be with, there's no excuse in the world that can come between you and them. So this is just friendly advice for all those out there. If you ever question, does someone want to be with you? Just look around. Are they there? There's your answer. I know it's not always that simple because every situation dictates. And obviously I'm not talking to extreme. I'm not talking about like, if you're married to someone in the military, let's say you're married to someone in the military and they're deployed. That's not that. Usually, especially if like you were married, they were in the military before you met them. That's situational. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't necessarily apply to that because they were in the military already. Or even if you know your relationship and they got in after. Like obviously, if your relationship before they joined, you knew what they were doing, so you agreed to it. Y'all talked about it. It happened. Even if you didn't agree to it, if you didn't break up with them, you agreed to it. You knew it's happening. It is what it is. Don't act brand new. You know this. Like I said, this just comes with respecting these situations and these boundaries in these relationships. So anyway, fam, I think I've already been going for about 2 hours. But also, but no, let me keep going. And another aspect I want to talk about when people talk about like today we have these gender roles. Now, for instance, hold on, family. I had to get some when I had to okay, so when I was talking about when I was explaining Adam and Eve, and I was talking about how, let's say, Adam works the field and Eve, you know, taking care of the babies, right? I want to separate that from today's ideology of telling people what makes you a man or a man should act this way or this and that. First and foremost, and this goes for man and woman, once again, and I said this earlier, if you were born with a penis, You are a man. No one, I don't care if you are an effeminate man, you know, a gay man, a weak man, a scary man, a cowardly man, an evil man, a happy man, sad man, strong, big man, little man. I don't care if you were castrated, God forbid. You're still a man. No definition that anybody can put on it, or no matter what you do, if you take a life, whatever. If you were born a man, you're a man. No one can take that from you. Stop letting people put that. I don't put it like this too. When people say a man is supposed to act like this and act like this, keep this in mind too. That does not denote a man. What that is characteristics of a man in a specific society to keep a specific worldview or society or system going. So, like for instance, when the Bible talks about beware of the leaven, right? And the leaven is representation of, like, when you take, let's say, God's word. The leaven is, like in the Bible says, do not add to or take away. The leaven is a preacher in a church adding rules to the Bible that were never there in the first place. In other words, a preacher waking up today and saying, if you from now on, we're going to church on Sunday. We're going to church on Tuesday. If you don't go to church on Tuesday, you're going to hell. That's what I mean. Like he just, like, you know, changed the rule. Okay, yeah. So basically, you know what I'm saying? So where I keep going with this is, so basically, like I was saying, so he just made up new guidelines. That's guidelines he needs for the church, for his story, for the world that he built within the church to work, right? So in this society, we talk a man has to be like this and this and that makes him a man. Wrong. First off, you're a man. Period. Now, what I will say, for order out of chaos, in order for us to have a non-degenerative society, a society of conscience, a society filled with knowledge and wisdom and the pursuit of joy or happiness or whatever you want to call it, there has to be order, right? There has to be. So, with that said, in order for that society to work, or whatever it is you're doing, yes, people are going to say general things like for instance, if a group of people got today and we said we were going to make up a new country called Batland, right? We have to build an infrastructure. And in order to build infrastructure, you need cohesion. You need people to be in some way, shape, or form uniform, because you're all moving towards the same goal, the same dream, right? So you have to move in unison. So what I'm saying is, or take it like this. Okay, so what I'm saying is, once again, as a man, you're born in penis, you're a man, period. No one can take it from you. But I would say the attributes of what a man does, and I guess we'll go to the Bible where it says a man will always get food by the sweat of his brow, right? But know that that does not necessarily correlate to today's world. So we say a man goes out and gets a job. A man goes out and gets money and brings it home to the family. A man, is always protecting the wife from burglars, right? And robbers and things. Understand that that only applies. Those are attributes to a man in this society. But I might dare say that a man in, let's say, I'm going to try to do two different descriptions. The attributes of a man in, let's say, a society, not even, let's say, a society of Adam and Eve. The attributes of Adam, first off, there's nothing to compare it to, so there's no one to even throw these words of man around and this and that. They're just doing what I'm supposed to do for our survival. So if you're looking at the definition or the attributes of a man from the bare minimum, know how to make shelter or find a shelter, know how to grow food or find food, know how to find or make clothes, If there's any danger around, like let's say a wild animal, know how to fight that animal off or kill it, or vice versa, another human being. And in general, that was the attributes of a man. But now today, and then and I'm talking about even attributes of man before there was even jokes. Not saying people didn't laugh or anything, but everything had to be learned at first. Family, think about it, like the common sense of it. Like we look at relationships today, like for instance, when a woman's looking for a man, she says, tall, dark, handsome, he needs to be funny. None of these things have anything to do with need. None of these things have anything to do with a healthy relationship that is expecting to have children. Or vice versa, a man. A woman having the biggest booty ever, or breast ever, or having a weave. And to be honest, I don't really know no man who asks women to put on weaves and extensions and stuff, so I'm going to take that out. I don't know any man that asks for that. But I'm just talking about, and honestly, I don't really know any man that goes around asking women for implants or anything. Honestly, I see only people I ever really advocating for women to get implants is other women, personally. Maybe an occasional, but rarely, a gay man who doesn't like women anyway, and he acts like a woman. Or maybe a really selfish rich dude. But at the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, why would you want to be like that, be with someone like that? Because obviously who you are is not good enough for them if they want you to change your body and literally go under the knife and surgically change yourself. So that's a whole nother story. So yeah, family. Dang, I gotta stop forgetting where I was. So yeah. So men, keep that in mind. You know, so and I'm saying this stuff too, and I'm bringing this up too, because, oh yeah, I was talking about society. So let's say, or like for instance, Adam and Eve in the garden, right? Let's say they're in the garden. The idea of Adam being a man, or the attributes of Adam being a man in the garden would be different than today too, because there, everything is provided. So the only thing that Adam would need to do, technically, really, is just provide a baby. And since it was them in the garden, I mean, I guess he'd be there and talk to the baby. But there was no danger. They didn't need to provide food because everything is there. So if you look at it from that point of view, the idea or definition of a man from that point of view and aspect itself changes right there. Adam is no longer... He would not be the idea of what we would consider a man today, because we wouldn't have everything, because there would be no need for it. Like I said, there's a difference between need and want. But in today's world, because of the world that we have, a lot more is required, or a lot more, we're given the illusion that a lot more is required of us now because of technology. It's like technology has made us forget that we are human beings. It's made us forget about our nature. Right? What essentially, family too, what they have done is they have separated the gods and goddesses from each other. Family, we are living organisms. Our body, our whole body is literally one giant living organism. Right? So naturally, you know, our flesh, we come from the earth. We were made from the earth. So it's almost like, you know, a battery, right? Where does a battery get its power? From its source, you know, and you know, from light, from energy, right? And after a while, if you don't recharge that battery, what happens? It runs out. So same thing with human beings. Our body is made of nature. It's natural, right? It comes from the earth. So what do you need to keep our battery charged? What do you think logically our body would need to keep itself going? Substances from the earth. Not only digesting it, like, have you ever heard of grounding when you walk barefoot, right? All that's for a reason, family. And what the man has done, or the system, is they have separated gods and goddesses, us, from our natural habitat, nature. we're more meant, family, to live in nature. And this is another thing about, like I said, this all goes into the relationships. They have first they separated us from the Creator. They separated us from our source energy. They separated us from our rejuvenation powers, which is earth, which is nature, which is natural living, right? And they put us in these cities. And they line these cities with concrete and metal and all these different hard materials that when you look at your life, remember, we put on, what do we wake up, we either have on socks and then we put shoes on top of our socks, and then we're walking on carpet, hardwood floor, tile. We're walking on all this hard stuff on a regular, all through the day, hours long. Go to work, come back, take our shoes off. Even then, might take showers, still put socks on maybe. But even if we take our socks off, we're still not walking on the ground. We're walking on carpet. We're walking on stone. We're walking on hardwood floor. We're walking on a lot of man-made materials. Even though these materials may come from the earth, these materials, like alchemy, have been transformed to suit the needs of man. So they're different vibrations and everything. It's no longer natural. So when you have these environments and when you understand what they've done to us, and they've taken us away from our energy source, our power, our true regenerative powers in nature and everything we need, they've separated us from our strength. And so after they completed that mission, the man, or whoever you want to call it, after they separated the gods and goddesses from the Creator, from nature, from our source of power, and got us to ourselves in these cities and corralled us together like animals without a conscience, then they began the war of separating man from the woman, separating the God from the goddess. Because when we come together and work together, we do great things, we grow, we learn, and that's what they don't want, because they want sheep, they want slaves. So they have now created this war between man and woman, to create this friction between God and goddess, so we don't produce good fruit. And this is essentially what they've done, family, with this new lifestyle that they're promoting. They're using the technology against us. They've created this atmosphere to where they've created this illusion, which is what it is, this illusion that men don't need women and women don't need men. Because of what? Technology. But if some disaster came and everything fell down today, family, guess what? We're going to need each other again. Because we'd be back at square one. Which means this is an illusion. And this illusion only works as long as the power's on. This illusion only works as long as everyone continues to play the game and continues to volunteer their time and life to the continued movement and operation of this system. This beast system, we want to be honest. Why do you think there's so much divorce and heartache and so many bad relationships? It's because we live in the beast system, family. And these are just things that, once again, family, we need to keep in mind as we go through this process of life and the things we learn. And these are very important keys to relationship, family. I'm telling you, this is very important, family. All this is important information to relationship. Very key things that people don't think about. Relationships are going to take time, family. You're going to have to work through it all through your life. It's not always going to be joy and happy and rainbows. But that's also the joy to it. The happiness is because once you get to the end, you're going to look at all the work that you put in, especially you and your mate. And you're all going to see where you came from. And another thing I want to throw out there, family. Y'all need to understand the difference between soulmates and twin flames. Because we got this mixed up. Family, when you come to this place, into this realm, you're one soul by itself, right? But before you come to earth, you're split into two aspects. When you're one soul, you're the feminine, you're the feminine and the male aspect, right, as one. But then before you come to earth, you're split. One aspect takes the male body, the other takes the female body, right? And what these two people are essentially, this is what everybody in this earth has. Everybody has a twin flame. It's in the word. It's essentially that. It's a twin. Everyone has a twin flame, not a doppelganger. It's different. It's a spiritual twin. It's literally your other half. It's your feminine. It's the male's feminine side and the female's male side. Everyone has a twin flame. But you should apply a twin flame relationship to a relationship between a fleshly, twin relationship between like brother and brother twins, or sister and sister twins, or even male and female twins. Like, if you've ever talked to twins or done research or studied or even looked at video, one thing that you should see about twins, well, not all the time, but a lot of time, is that twins fight a lot. They fight like cats and dogs because they're so similar, right? And they're just codependent, and they do, it's not all fun. There's issues, there's codependency, and times they can't stand each other, but they want to get away from each other, but it's like they can't. So understand, if you're in a twin flame relationship, that's what it is. It's just that, you're twin. Some people take twin flame and you're thinking it's perfect, it's this and that. Look, if you look at all twin relationships, remember, not all of them are perfect. Not all of them are, we're happy twins and we're always happy. And then even then it varies. Like some, yes, they have happy times, like most relationships. There's times we laugh and joy. And then obviously, like most people, they have times where they argue. But then there's twins where all they do is argue. There's twins where they never say nothing. They're both miserable together. So having a twin flame isn't necessarily a good thing, family. It was not a bad thing either, but I'm saying every twin flame situation isn't optimal. It's not always, oh my God, I have a twin flame, I'm so happy, let's go be in a relationship. It doesn't work like that. And now you got soulmates. Family and soulmates is the same thing like the Bible. It's a helpmate. And when you understand what a helpmate and soulmate is, a soulmate is not someone who is made specifically for your soul. It's not like an actual mate to your soul. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like if you broke a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in half, and the pieces that you broke apart are actually should be fused together, like they used to be one, but now they're two. That's not what a soulmate is. A soulmate isn't someone who's a part of your soul and ripped away. A soulmate is like a helpmate. You have many different soulmates. You have many different helpmates. A soulmate is just someone who is, it's not necessarily like a twin flame. A twin flame is like a mirror of you. You have things in common. You don't have to necessarily have anything in common with a soulmate. A soulmate is someone who fits your life. It's like they fit like a glove. In other words, they're like a soulmate to a man is a woman who supports him. Has his children, takes care of his children. If they have that agreement, it's a home where, you know what I'm saying? That's a soulmate to a man. It's a woman who supports him in his endeavors in life. A soulmate to a woman is a man who supports her, vice versa, same thing. A soulmate could be anyone, but a soulmate is just someone who you guys just click and go with, and you support each other. That's pure. As a matter of fact, you don't have to necessarily click. A soulmate is just someone who benefits you. From a soulmate, from a relationship, from an intimate relationship point of view, it's just someone who benefits your life, compliments you, period. It has nothing to do, like I said, they didn't used to be a part of you. It's not some thing where they can only be that person. You have multiple soulmates. You just have to be willing to put the work in to find that person, so you can understand what to look for and who this person is. And then a soulmate too, it's going to work like butter. Like I said too, you're not going to have to try. It's like when people say it's just fluid. And it's just not just going to be fluid for a few weeks or a few months and then stop. It's going to be fluid for a lifetime. If you're willing to put the work in and you have the common sense and understanding of what an actual relationship is, knowing that it isn't just, fun and games all the time. And also another thing, family, and if you haven't already made this out already, and you have to understand is, you do not need a marriage certificate and a ceremony to be married. You, as an adult human being, need to first come to the understanding, once again, that sex makes babies. And especially if you call yourself a Christian, you say you read the Bible. Before you put a ring on it or anything, before you even go on a date with a woman, and go for so-called Christian females too, before you even lay with a man or do anything. This is why I say I like courting. Because courting is like another way of saying dating with intention, I guess. And it doesn't mean dating and having sex. It just means we're talking, we're hanging out, because we're trying to figure out if we believe we're compatible enough for marriage, right? So, but here's the thing. Once again, you as a man and woman need to understand that what a true relationship is, or marriage, it's just like the Bible says, where two people come together and be one. It has nothing to do with a ceremony. It has nothing to do with anybody else. With money, food. It has all that. Everything is extra. It first starts at the core, which is you two. Which is you two choosing each other. And every day after that, choosing each other every day, again and again and again. Continue to work. And if you both, like I said, have decided to be faithful, that's what you agreed on, continue to go down that path. And you understand that this relationship is not kept together. You know, this relationship lasting is not predicated on whether or not you have a ring or a piece of paper saying that you got married in a courthouse, or, you know, or anything like that. If you guys don't want to be with each other without the extra stuff, like I say, if you look at this woman and you can't see yourself being with her forever, it's just that piece of flesh, that piece of meat before you, you know, with basically taking her how she is. If you can't see yourself with her, then you need to. If you can't look at this man and accept him for that piece of flesh in you without a ring or a piece of paper or this money or any of extra, if that's not what you want off, then you're done. Then you shouldn't be doing it. Honest. Well, situations dictate, because obviously too, that's you thinking about arranged marriage and then wants and needs. But in today's world, especially West world, we go off needs, right? So I'm trying to give you the best tools for this need situation. So once again, you need to understand that. That's the first thing. Is this, I need to be this person. And after you have made the choice that I could be with this person without anything else extra, you're not worried about they clothes, what they drive, their house, what they plans. Like, I'm talking about just the person themselves. Imagine them standing for you naked. It's just them talking to you. Them. If they're not good enough then and there, then you know what I'm saying? That's like the first thing. Well, one of the first things, because I said a lot of stuff. Next, if you can't comprehend and understand that you both can be married and remain married without a ring or a contract, or even honestly without the word married, then you don't need to be married. If you guys can't be married without being able to be away from each other, about being able to trust each other, not to cheat and stuff, you don't need to be married. Because essentially what it really is, it's just two people coming together. Let's say I saw a girl, her name was Rachel. You know, she's like, what's up, Eli? I'm like, hey, Rachel, hey, you want to get together, have sex, be in a relationship, have a baby? And she says, okay. And I say, okay, cool. And we just do it. Simple as that. That's it. We're together. We didn't have to go to a church. We don't need to go tell everybody. We know. We know what we both said. We know how we feel about each other. Because, and here's a common sense, family. Let's say the government, society, let's say you got married before, right? And let's say, you know, you got the paperwork, you got the ring. And let's just say over the next few years, somehow society just completely fell apart and deteriorated, right? There's no government no more. There's nothing. It's just everybody fending for themselves, right? And matter of fact, you lost the ring. You had to pawn it as things are going bad. The marriage certificate was lost in a fire. So it's just you two and the clothes on your back. Do you mean to tell me that because that the government is gone and you don't have the ring and paper, that you two are no longer married, or no longer husband and wife, or you know what I'm saying? Yeah, you still are, because it has nothing to do with the ring or the paper. It has to do with the two people. And until you understand this in your mind, you know, that's another reason, like, once again, it's not intuitive for you to be married and be in a relationship. Because that's another reason why people get married today. People get married today already with the thought in their mind that, oh, well, if it doesn't work out, we just get divorced and leave. You should get married, or in other words, lay down, as the Bible is saying, have sex with someone. In other words, enter a woman's temple, and a woman allow a man to enter her temple already with that choice in your head that this is the person I want to be with for the rest of my life. Or, like I said, or if you're in a polygamous situation, this is one of the 4 people that I want to be with for the rest of my life. You know what I'm saying? So it just depends on your circumstances. But either way, it usually, to me, like I said, unless you want a degenerate society, if you want a society that works, a society that's not going to implode and be destroyed eventually, which is what's going to happen with the world, with the especially U.S. society. This is what you need for these relationships to work, family. Also, family, don't get too caught up today. Like when people are talking about relationships, people are so caught up on material things to where now I hear people, it's like in order for a man to get a wife, it's funny. It's like, and I need you to understand something, sisters. If your desire is to be with a rich man, I want you to know this. This rich man is a human being. And 9 times out of 10, you don't know this. You have not known this man all your life. He's probably older than you. And even if he is the same age as you, 9 times out of 10, it's someone you did not grow up with. They went totally different schools, different town, things of this nature. So you weren't there the whole time. You don't know everything they've been through. And you're probably most likely is an older gentleman, and you're coming in his life years later, right? So, in order, and I'm not saying all, but I would say for most, and then depending on mindset in this situation too, and circumstantial. But for a general rule of thumb, no matter the situation or circumstance, a man, especially, and then also a man, let's say a man who has money who isn't necessarily the most handsomest, right? A man who wasn't always rich. A man who has made it to this point in life, especially a man who's been through so much crap, people putting him down, calling him ugly, being broke, all this crap, and now he's finally rich. And because he's rich, it has made him attractive to so many other people. The odds of him sitting there after everything he's been through and saying, I just want to be with one woman, especially in this world, is slim to none. And the reason I say that is because it's almost like this. Let's say there was a girl, right, who I went up to, and I say I wanted to be with her. And I went up to her and she was like, look, in order for you to be with me, you need to make umpteen amount of money. And let's just assume it's millions, right? And at the time, because I really want her, and I've convinced myself I'm just in love with this girl, even though I've never done nothing with her, she's just been there. But I'm on my scent mode, right? I don't like that word. Let me not say that. I'm just in an ignorant mode at the time. So I go out there and I get to work. And let's say fast forward 7 years later. 7 years of hard, non-stop work. And I'm finally a millionaire, right? And then let's just say I haven't seen her necessarily since that first conversation we had. Matter of fact, if I have seen her, it's just around town, but we don't really talk. We don't really nothing to say. She's off living her best life, having boyfriends, having sex, doing all this stuff. Fast forward 7 years later, right? You really think after 7 years of the amount of work I put in to get that money, you really think I'm going to look at you and still want you? Because you know what that man's going to be at that moment? And I'm going to say this, whether whether any man admits it or not, I really believe this to be the truth. If not I'm not going to say it's the ultimate truth. And when I say ultimate truth, I'm not going to say never say never. I'm going to put it like this. I say very rare for a man hold on, family. Oh, I lost my track. For a man to be in a lane. Okay, yeah, so I'm gonna tell you like this. Like I said, this is why I said think of your average everyday man, especially when you start out poor. By the time, if he starts out getting money for women, by the time he gets that money, whether he admits it or not, he's bitter. And if he says he's not bitter, okay, maybe he's not bitter anymore. But by the time you get to that money and you see what it brings to you, and it like at some point it's gonna hit you. And then even if you only bitter for an hour or a moment, you're bitter because you had to come to that moment of bitterness. Otherwise you might be an uneducated person, or I will be an uneducated person, to go back to that woman who didn't want me 7 years ago, who said that she would only want me unless I got this money or had this or could provide this certain lifestyle. But now that I have this certain lifestyle, all these women want me. And you really think I'm going to sit here and give all this up for you, who wouldn't have wanted me regardless? And this is what I'm saying to my sister. You have to think about this. When you say you want these rich men, this is what you have to be looking for. I say, I'm not going to say all, but majority of men with money, they're not going to be loyal to you. And if they are loyal, it's loyalty because you guys have an agreement that they can have other women. But it's very rare. Like, I'm telling you, it's probably, if not any, in this world today, you're going to find a millionaire, a man, who can have, at this point, have, if not any woman, but women that he never imagined of at the end of the day. You gonna sit here and tell him to turn that down for you who didn't want him in the first place? And you think he gonna turn it down? Come on, this is the logic I'm trying to get you to understand, sisters. When you ask for this lifestyle, know that you're trading. When you ask for money, and you look for a man only in money, or you only look for a man for his looks, know that you're trading intimacy. You're trading a man who truly cares about you. Because I'm telling you right now, a Chad, a Tyrone, or a millionaire man, at the end of the day, because they have such an option of women, they really don't care about you. You're just there for that moment. And I don't blame them, because they live at a point in life to where it's like, well, I'm not saying I don't blame them, but for the world we live in, I guess I don't blame them because of the morals we're taught. For the world that we live in as a rich man, I wouldn't blame him. For what we taught and we see this going on and how men and women treat each other. Personally, if you're rich and you get there and you don't, as a man, take advantage, you're stupid. Because you can sit there and look, you know what, I'm not going to say that, I take it back. That wouldn't be the most intelligent choice of yours. Especially, you know what I'm saying, if you get that rich and you get married, you know what I'm saying? No, I mean, if you get that rich and you don't exercise those options, it's not the most intelligent thing, because it's almost like living in this fairy tale that love is real. It's like a man living in this fairy tale that he's ever going to find a woman that's going to care for him the same way that his mother cared for him. That's a fairy tale, because no woman is going to care for you ever the way that your mother does, because your mother, you came from her. Your mother cares for you for your survival. A woman cares for you for your ability to provide. Looking back at the definition that we read for respect earlier, liking someone for what they can do, for their abilities. You know what I'm saying? So just keep that in mind, fellas. And I'm sorry, ladies, fellas, I totally lost my train of thought. So okay, so yeah, so that's what I'm saying. And then fellas, think about this. If you're a man who really wants, let's say, the closest thing to so-called like that fairy tale love, right? Like that stuff you have when you're ignorant teenager, when you're provided, not even realizing that you've been provided this opportunity for this whimsical love, because you're not an adult, you ain't got to pay no bills, you don't have nothing else to worry about. So because you have nothing else to worry about, remember, privilege is invisible to those who have it. And as a child, if you call yourself falling in love as a child, you don't understand the privilege you have to do that, because you don't have to worry about necessarily work or even necessarily school. I mean, yeah, you want to worry about school because you want good grades, but it's not like necessarily life or death at that moment. You're young, you live at home, you're not worried about nothing, right? So with that said, for Dang it, family. Hold on. I'm thinking about. We talking about privileges, right? Privileges. And I was saying why a man, if you're being honest. Okay, so men, yeah, that's what I'm saying. If you, this is so you don't end up as some people would say a sin. At some point, fam, like I say, if you have not honestly married a woman or been with her since you were younger, by the time you're older, man, you should have this fairy tale of this romantic love out of your head, man. Because by that point, it's like you're adults now, you understand life, and looking at certain situations, it's like, you know, and this is for like, well, even for, you know what I'm saying? So what I'm saying is, for you to go up to a woman, let's say you older, 30 something, go up to a woman talking about you want to be with her and marry her. At this point, you're not kids no more. So if you walk up to her and you ain't put no, let's say, okay, let's put it like, let's say you was, when you were younger, a more attractive dude, right? Let's say you walk up to a woman now, y'all in your 30s, and you want to get married, and you, let's say you got to change your heart, you're going to be whole no more. That woman that would accept you then, now that you're older, is going to look at you like you crazy, because she going to be like, I enjoyed laying with you, but you can't give me anything outside of that. Like, you don't have no job, you can't provide a roof over my head. So that's what I'm saying. Like, so as a man, know that, you know, you trade. Anyway, I'm done, family. I'm like all over the place, and this is something, you know, leave comments, like, subscribe. We'll talk about it more of a time, you know, getting more in depth. You know, if you disagree with me, leave a comment, you know, please leave a comment. Disagree, I like it, we'll talk about it. But I think for the most part, family, if you really took the time to listen and comprehend, you know, I put a lot of good information out there, broke it down. So without further ado, family, be blessed. Shalom. I'll catch y'all later.